Can we hit that? Alrighty, guys. Welcome to episode 4 of the Hammy Takes Pod. I'm your host Hamza, and unfortunately, my co-host Mina wasn't able to make it tonight. He's currently got some personal things going on, so I'm gonna let him take care of that. But join with me, we have two very special guests, and if you can tell by one of the guys' screen, he has a Justin Fields jersey and a lot of Bears memorabilia, and then obviously my guy's wearing his Bears merch. We have two very awesome Bears fans in here, and my man Jarrett Rice, and also making his second appearance, the man, the myth, the legend himself, my man Millerfootball. How are you boys doing today?
Pretty good. Can't really complain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've got a killer headache, like I was talking about a couple minutes ago, from staring at my laptop watching film so much. But other than that, I'm doing fine.
That's good, man. That's wonderful. I'm doing pretty good too. So the reason why you guys are wondering, I'm a Packers fan here, and I have Bears fans here, but these are awesome Bears fans, so it doesn't really matter about much. But the reason why I have Jared and Miller here is because free agency's been going on in the NFL, and the Bears are making the most headlines out of anyone. Obviously, the Bears made that massive trade where they traded the number one overall pick, and they got that massive haul in return, plus DJ Moore, which I absolutely love. And then they're going off in free agency, signing a couple key linebackers to help with their scheme. Everything that the Bears are doing, I'm liking what they're doing. So that's what they're here to talk about. Talk about what the Bears are doing and just talk about pretty much every single signing in free agency. Well, not really just every single signing, but pretty much the big name guys, since pretty much if we go through every single signing, this probably would be a long episode, so I probably wouldn't recommend that. But luckily, shout out to Ari Myrov, who pretty much just summarizes all these signings under in just one tweet. And so I'm just pretty much going to go through like pretty much the first big name signing. Then we'll get to the Bears at the last part of the episode, since we'll save the best for the last. But the first signing that I pretty much came across with that's a big name, 49ers signing Javon Hargrave. When you thought this defensive line was scary and you didn't think it would get scarier enough, well, it got scary enough. They get Javon Hargrave for a 4-year, $84 million deal, and I don't know what to say, but best defense in the league, and now you can't run against them. So let me know about what you guys think about Javon Hargrave being a San Francisco 49er.
Jarrett, you want to start us here, or do you want me to go?
I guess quickly I'll add, because I mean I know it's like a huge move, but it's like just giving like an already amazing defense more than they need. Like it's unnecessary in how good it is, because like you said, debatably the best defense in the league. It's insane on every level. Defensive line, linebacker, secondary, and then you add one of the better defensive tackles in football. I know he's getting up there in age, but I feel like that's kind of irrelevant with how much of like a win now team it kind of is.
Right.
And like, I mean, obviously we found out last year that they are like one of the only teams who can just flat out win without a quarterback, because I mean, I have made this very known. I am not high on Brock Purdy. I'm very anti Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they made it that far with him was insane. They ended up losing to Philly, but they also didn't even have Purdy or Josh Johnson. They had an injured Purdy who just handed the ball off the entire second half. But it's a huge move. That defensive line is scarier than it already was. The 49ers, I think, even without that move, were a very good team in the NFC. I think with that move are probably, in my opinion, the heavy favorites to go out of the NFC next year.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Miller, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Obviously, the Niners defense was unbelievable last year. And the only two real weaknesses, so to speak, for that defense was the cornerback room, which, again, they still managed to make work because D'Amico Ryans is a king. And the interior of the defensive line, because Javon Hargrave, good lord, Javon Kinlaw is not exactly the best interior defensive lineman, pretty bad in run defense. You saw a lot of cuts last year of teams just running directly at him and him getting smothered. And you can't do that against Javon Hargrave. He's a great run defender, even better pass rusher, so now every offensive line is going to be shitting the bed against Nick Bosa and whoever they end up getting to play on the other side of their defensive line, because they lost Samson Ebukam, and I think Charles Amena, who's also still on the open market, so that's a little bit worrying. But Javon Hargrave's a better player than the two of them. And then you see across the league, recently how valuable interior defensive pass rushers have become with guys like Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence and Quentin Williams and Christian Wilkins and all these big names that are getting all this money. We saw Deron Payne just get paid all that money from Washington. This is a fantastic move from San Francisco, shoring up probably the most important position that they didn't have an answer to on their defense.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. San Francisco obviously bulking up that defensive line. I mean, as David and Jarrett said, I mean, this is a hard defense to run on. Every offensive line is going to be shitting their bed against when you have to go against Nick Bosa and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure who they have alongside with Bosa because they lost Charles Omenihu to the Chiefs. He actually signed
he did sign.
Yeah, he signed with Kansas City. I can't remember what the contract was. I think it was like 2 years or something. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to something that I'm gonna have to recheck. But obviously they lost him to the Chiefs, and Samson Ebukam is on the Colts, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, but either way, San Francisco, as long as you have Bosa out there on the edge, I mean, this defensive line is scary, and also Steve Wilks is their defensive coordinator, and you can pretty much expect that if Steve Wilks is going to be in your coaching staff, he's going to make sure that you play to your fullest potential. I mean, Steve Wilks is a guy that he's going to bring the best out of you. He's that type of coach, and so I really don't have any concerns with the Niners defense. Maybe they could, as they mentioned, cornerbacks, maybe something they could work on. I mean, I was really wanting the Niners to get CJ Gardner-Johnson, to play for them for a cheap deal. Because, really, if this team wants to, risk it all and just win it, I mean, they lost Jimmy Ward to the Texans. So I was like, okay, why not try and see if you can get CJ Gardner-Johnson if possible? I mean, considering that he just today signed with the Detroit Lions on a 1-year deal, but that's something that we'll get onto later. But, I mean, really, as long as Steve Wilks is there, I mean, a guy that's going to coach you out, I think this defense is still the best in the league. I mean, good luck stopping them. And then obviously having the best linebacker duo, I should say, in Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I mean, this defense is probably, sufferable to play against. So, I mean, all I can say is man, we never thought that the Niners defense would get scary, but it did. And we got that.
Real quick before we move on, I just want to say I checked ESPN. As of right now, it looks like Drake Jackson would be starting opposite Nick Bosa, and he hasn't had a lot of playing time, so I don't really know what to think of him. But on the bright side, I was looking at my draft board, and I have 13 edge rushers graded to go in the first 2 days of the draft. So I think the Niners, at the very least, will be able to get a hold of an edge rusher in the draft, because it is a really, really deep edge class. There's a lot of really talented players coming out this year. Right. And I know the Niners don't pick in the first round. I can't remember when their first pick is, but they should be able to get something figured out there. I have no worries about who's going to be playing opposite Bosa.
Right, yeah. I think they do pick in the first round, if I'm not mistaken.
No, their pick went to Miami.
Yeah, it's
Trey Lance trade.
Oh,
wasn't that the one that they traded to Denver, who then traded it to New Orleans?
Yes.
The same pick? Okay.
Yeah, they traded it to Denver to get Bradley Chubb, and then Denver traded it to get Sean Payton.
Okay, so it's been all over the league. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep. I'm just now seeing on Tankathon. Yep, your guys are absolutely right. Niners traded that in the Trey Lance deal. Then now it's become the Saints pick. So I think the Niners' first pick, if I can pull it up, I believe it's somewhere in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, I think there's a chance if maybe an edge rusher somehow does fall in the second round, which I haven't really took a deep look into the edge class this year, even though it is extremely deep. But I could definitely see the Niners probably going for one just for insurance purposes. But
they don't pick until the third round, unfortunately.
Well, because of the McCaffrey trade.
Drake Jackson was a second round pick last year, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know how like highly regarded he was because I didn't watch a whole lot of tape on like non first round picks last year, but I do remember him going in the second round.
yeah,
Mm.
they have 3 third-round picks, and all 3 of them are comp picks. I completely forgot that the NFL just gave them every comp pick in the fucking world.
Oh yeah,
Oh
they
yeah.
had like a lot, like an
Yeah,
insane amount.
hold on, they have comp picks this year: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 comp picks.
That's more than the Bears started with going into the draft last
Oh
year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see a tweet somewhere about like the Niners leading the league in
Mhm.
compensatory picks. And yeah, their first pick is pick number 99 overall. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, listen, as long as Kyle Shanahan's coaching, in this and his wonderful offense, I still think the Niners are probably the heavy favorites coming out of the NFC. I mean, considering if you're looking at what the Eagles are losing some of their free agents and stuff, even though I do expect Philly to be a top 3 team in the NFC, but I think at this point, like, I can comfortably say the Niners are the heavy favorites. Just obviously Kyle Shanahan using his wide zone offense, and then obviously using the most important position, which Miller over here is going to applaud with me, the fullback position, which they have the absolute best in the league at, and then obviously the number 1 defense in all of football. So Niners are scary.
They
So
also
they're
have a top tight end, which matters, by the way.
yeah,
That's
George.
Jarrett's thing.
I
Jarrett's
am
the
not
tight end
like
guy.
as big on fullbacks on tight ends as David is on fullbacks, but tight ends is my favorite position. On my podcast, we actually had a debate on how important tight ends were, and I'm like, tight ends up there, top like 3 to 5 most important position in football.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I totally
I
agree.
adore the tight end position.
That
Yeah.
wasn't consensus?
No, because my guys just like to disagree with me on everything.
Okay.
One of them is a Texans fan who thought D'Amico Ryans wasn't a good hire because defensive coaches aren't good, and I had to debate with him for like half an hour on it.
Yeah, that's stupid as well. Yeah,
Listen,
tight ends are incredibly important, especially for teams with young quarterbacks, because there's
Right.
not a better safety blanket in the world than a good pass catching tight end. Or like when it's 3rd and 6 and you need 6 yards, there's nothing better to do than throw to your tight end because they're going to be able to get those easy pickups for you.
Absolutely.
couldn't say it better myself.
And
Yeah, tight ends are incredibly important. I don't know why that wouldn't be a consensus opinion.
I think it shows when in the conference championships this year, what there was the best tight end in the league,
mhm.
the probably second best tight end in the
Mhm.
league. Goddard's I don't have my official list or anything, but Goddard's
Right.
probably around there in like that 5-ish range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was Hayden Hurst, which Hayden Hurst is a very respectable tight end. He's
I
not
was
like
gonna
elite,
say Hayden
but
Hurst really
respectable.
stepped up last year.
Sure
He
did.
had a really nice year for Cincy, and that shows because he got paid by Carolina.
And
And
that's
that was
another
like their
team
big
that's
deficiency.
yeah, and that's another team that's going for a future quarterback, and whoever's going to get there, they're going to love what Carolina's got. So,
Yeah.
um, but pretty much we can all agree the consensus is Niners are scary. Niners win, and it's over for the league or it's probably for the NFC actually, not the league in general because they still have to go with Kansas City. But
Yeah.
the Denver Broncos. That is a team that has been really impressing me all in free agency so far. They are going all in. Getting Mike McGlinchey, who probably might be their best tackle, considering who they might have at tackles at this point.
Garrett Bowles is
Garrett
great.
Bowles is solid. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Garrett.
he was
Let's.
injured last year, I believe.
I
yeah,
believe so.
he missed the year.
But like the year before that, he like had turned his entire career around and was really, really good.
Mhm,
And then last year, I think it was more so injury things that
right.
caused him to sit out.
Yeah,
And
when
Garrett
Garrett
Bowles,
Bowles is on the field, he's one of the better tackles in football, for
he
sure.
is, and he's good. I just don't like the fact that I think he's old, and I think he's still on his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
Yeah, that's his
he was
one
drafted a
downside.
little older, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but man, he's still good though. But
yeah, for sure.
Mike McGlinchey, former 49ers tackle, signing with the Broncos. He's inconsistent, but I still think like even if you get an average tackle, that's still good enough. Anything to upgrade your offensive line. And then the Broncos also signing Ben Powers, who I
One of the
really
better
love.
signings of free
Ben
agency.
Powers was the one. I was more impressed with Ben Powers than
Mm.
Yeah,
McGlinchey
for sure.
personally.
Oh, I absolutely. And I mean, Ben Powers getting what, 28 million guaranteed?
That was nothing.
I'm like,
That was
holy
a hell of
cow,
a deal.
that was such a deal. And Denver going all in, getting that. And then Broncos also signing Zach Allen after they couldn't reach an agreement with Draymond
Draymond
Jones.
Jones.
And so they replaced him with Zach Allen. I thought that was an awesome underrated pickup by Denver.
They gave him a little much for my liking, but Zach Allen's a hell of a ball player.
He
My
is.
thing with free agency, which I am not a cap guy, I think I've made this known on Twitter. I really don't understand how the cap works. 'Cause I'm like, oh, so this team doesn't have a
Yeah.
lot of money, like the Broncos, and then they go out and sign, mega deals to like 3 guys, and I'm like, I don't know how this works, but good,
Yeah.
good for them.
Yeah,
But
same.
I liked all of the signings. I think personally the McGlinchey one out of them was like the most overpay, but at the same time, I'm not one of those people who complains about every free agent signing being an overpay because honestly, that is what they are.
Yeah,
Right.
It's a bidding
Sure.
war. Every single one is going to be debatably a bit an overpay,
Mhm.
but they're all in considering how hard it is to get like solid offensive linemen in the NFL. I think they were all solid deals, especially for Powers. But it was overall great free agency. Kind of sucks that they have Russell Wilson unless they can turn him around because that contract is absolutely atrocious.
Right. Which I'm very
Well, Russ
confident in
looked
Sean
good
Payton.
at the end of the last year when Nathaniel Hackett left, so hopefully he's able to pick that up. And obviously, like Hammy just said, Sean Payton being there is massive.
Right.
Sean Payton
Right.
made Taysom Hill look competent at quarterback, so it can only go up from here.
Absolutely. And like the people that kept saying that, oh my God, the Broncos should have not traded their first round pick away. The thing is, it does not matter if you're the number 1 overall pick in the draft. A coach is always going to be the most impactful part of a team. If you're not going to have good coaching, your team's not going to be this good. It doesn't really matter about, if you really get the number 1 overall pick. I mean, you look at Kyler Murray. He's been spectacular, but he's been dealt with horrible coaching, and the Cardinals have been a dumpster fire. So, like, really, whatever first round pick they would have gotten, like, it would have not have made a significant big of an impact than Sean Payton. And Sean Payton, like, hands down, is a top 5 coach in football when he's coaching. So the fact
absolutely.
I mean, having a brilliant offensive mind in him, like, I'm pretty sure that Russell Wilson is going to get turned around. But seeing Denver go all in, getting the guys, and then also re-signing Alex Singleton, which I actually liked what they did. I mean, if Sean Payton can turn Russell Wilson around, I think the Broncos could be a legitimate contender in the AFC, and there's a chance they could finish probably second in the AFC, because depending on what the Chargers do and the Raiders, which I don't think they're serious enough, but I think there's a chance Denver could finish second in that division.
Yeah, they definitely have a shot.
I would put them as my favorites for second because the Raiders are a dumpster fire.
Right.
My stepdad's actually a Raiders fan, and I told him when they hired Josh McDaniels, I'm like, listen, I'm sorry to tell you, you're screwed for the next like 3 to 5 years because McDaniels is an awful coach.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming I'm 100% right yet. It's looking that direction. I really don't like McDaniels as a coach. And they have a very talent-barren roster. They're paying Jimmy G. I mean, $25 million for a starting quarterback isn't atrocious, but it is Jimmy Garoppolo who plays, 8 games a season max. They have Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. They just traded Waller, but there's not a whole lot of talent on that roster. I don't think they have a good coach, so they're going to definitely be like a bottom-dwelling team. The Chargers, I think, is another thing where I don't think Staley is a bad coach, but I think he's below average enough to where he brings down the roster.
Right.
But like you said, so if Sean Payton does bring the most out of Russell Wilson, they're definitely 100% the second. I still don't know about putting them near the Chiefs, but they would definitely be a second place in the AFC West.
Correct. And then also, like, personally, they just Chargers got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. And a lot of people said, like, oh, Kellen Moore is probably, basic. His offense is, pretty easy to predict and whatnot. And and I can see a lot of those arguments why. But, I mean, he's getting a quarterback upgrade in Justin Herbert. So I'm kind of curious to see what Kellen Moore does. And the thing I kind of do want to question people regarding Kellen Moore is how much influence, like, if you want to see that give Mike McCarthy like how much influence did McCarthy kind of had, and same with previous head coach Jason Garrett, because those were his bosses. And yes, obviously Kellen Moore called plays last year, but how much influence do you think Mike McCarthy might have had? That's probably why the Cowboys are kind of been underperforming. But that's just, I think that's something that we'll probably figure out this season, because I'm pretty sure Brandon Staley's giving all the offensive play calling to Kellen Moore. So I'm kind of curious to see what the Chargers do offensively. But like I said, Denver is, if Vance Joseph can get this defense to be one of the best defenses in the league, then I definitely see a path Denver finishing second in that division. But seeing the Broncos going all in and like building the trenches, I'm loving what they're doing so far. So McGlinchey, Ben Powers,
signed a fullback.
Yes, they got it. They got what's his name? Michael Burton.
Michael Burton.
Yep. I didn't even know they got Michael Burton. I missed that one.
Yeah. They got Burton.
You want to know why you missed it? It came out 5 minutes after the Lions signed David Montgomery. That's probably why you missed it.
Listen, you don't want to know how bad I was in my feels.
No, I was the same way.
No, okay, don't worry, because I felt the same way for you guys. I was like, man, Monty's not a Bear anymore, because I felt bad.
Yeah, my girlfriend's a Bears fan. I've kind of forced it onto her, but we've went to Bears games together, and so she has her favorites. Darnell Mooney is like her favorite player, but Monty was definitely up there. And I remember we were sitting in the living room, and I like glanced at my phone, and like I think I saw like the news thing pop up, and I'm like, oh my god, Monty's gone, and I freaked out. No joke. We were supposed to cook dinner or whatever. I was like, no, we're getting pizza, and like we drove to like the nearest Domino's, and we listened to like the sad playlist on Spotify. I was in my feels to the max. Like, of all of the Bears players to ever leave, that's like up there for the saddest I've ever been. Monty's like one of my favorite players of all time. It hurt in my soul so much.
Mm-hmm.
I was the same way. I didn't even get a chance to be in my feelings because I had to record a podcast like 10 minutes after the fucking news broke. So I had to collect my composure, and even then I was pissed off the whole time. If you go watch the most recent episode of Run the North, I am a mess. But like Jarrett said, other than Matt Forte, when he got traded to the Jets, I can't think of a Bears player leaving that made me more upset. Because usually when a guy leaves, you're either looking at it as, okay, he retired, like Brian Urlacher, for example. When he left the Bears, he was done. Or you look at somebody like Charles Tillman, and his prime was over. He was not much of an asset at that point when he left. Or a guy like Adrian Amos, when he left, he was a dick about it and made everybody hate him as soon as he was off the team. But with Monty, he was quiet. He didn't say a word. There was no speculation. Right. There was no drama. He just left, went off and got the best deal possible for him in the best situation possible for him, which makes it even worse because you can't even be mad. Like, he's just looking out for himself. He did the right thing objectively by going to Detroit because schematically and with the team they have built, that was the perfect spot for him to go. And that makes it so much worse. It sucks. It really, really fucking sucks.
Right. And it does suck that he did go to a division rival, but at the same time, like, he went to the Lions, and I personally would have
fucking Minnesota or Green Bay.
Yeah. And I get you with that, but yes, I felt the same. But just like how you guys are feeling with Monty, that was me when Jamal Williams left Green Bay for Detroit. I was like, man, because Jamal Williams is a goofy guy, and I love goofy players in my locker room, just guys that are just fun and energetic. But then I was like, okay, he went to the Lions, and that was probably something that I would like about, because at least the Lions are going to get something nice, and I have a soft spot for the Detroit Lions. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, the NFC North is like incredibly weird when it comes to like our rivalries and stuff. Because it's like we all feel so bad for the Lions, like we have our compassion with them, and then
we hate each other.
Then everyone else just hates each other, and it's just like, oh man. And then like
you have Bears fans who hate the Bears.
Yeah,
you mean 90% of them?
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm the same way with Packers fans. I at times hate Packers fans too, because they have been going idiotic on Twitter, and I'm just like. And then this Packers Twitter account, IKE Packers Podcast, who just posts some of the most BS stuff, and it made me mad. Like, literally,
Wasn't he the one who posted who was better between Love and Fields, and then did the same thing with Jared Goff?
exactly. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if Jordan Love's the starting quarterback of my team. He's the worst quarterback in our division, and the only reason I'm saying that is because we haven't seen this man play enough games. It's like I have no idea how Love is, so it's just like, stop being delusional. Like, it makes no sense to me. But anyways, kind of got a little off track, which is perfectly fine. Doesn't matter. The Broncos obviously killing it in free agency. The contracts they gave McGlinchey 5 years for a total of $87.5 million, but he's getting $50 million guaranteed. Ben Powers obviously getting $28 million guaranteed over 4 years, but he can make up to a total of $52 million. Let's see, and then moving on, the next team, my second favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons, they signed defensive tackle David Onyemata from the Saints, and they also went to get Jesse Bates, which personally I like it. At this point, the Falcons need talent on that defense, so going out there getting Jesse Bates was something, and Onyemata is okay. I mean, not bad. I mean, he's a good tackle. I mean, from the Saints defense, and Ryan Nielsen is the new defensive coordinator who was under the Saints defensive staff. But Falcons getting Jesse Bates, helping out AJ Terrell, I think that was a good move. I could say maybe a little bit of an overpay, but at this point, like, it's a marketing strategy. Gotta give the money out to the players in order to convince your players to come play for your team. So I can't really blame Atlanta for doing this, but I mean, pretty much, I think, I mean, if you got a really good safety, top 10, maybe top 5 safety in football, and then pretty much the Falcons, if they can, all they really need is just a pass rush, and I think they'll be solid defense, I should say, and a pretty solid team if supposedly if Desmond Ridder pans out. But so far, I mean, the Falcons aren't doing bad either. But let me know what you guys think about this.
You want to go ahead, David?
All right.
No, you go first.
Okay. The Bates deal is one that's kind of grown on me. At first, I wasn't a huge fan of it because Jesse Bates, he's not Jesse Bates anymore, right? Like, he's still a good coverage safety, which is granted hard to come by nowadays, but he's not one of the best in the league anymore.
Right.
He's not one of the top 5 guys at his position anymore. And I know probably not the most popular opinion in the world, but I don't care. I stand by it. But that being said, like you said, Hammy, the defensive line and the pass rush is kind of suspect, to say the least, right now. And if you have a bad pass rush, you can make up for that with a good secondary, and he's absolutely an upgrade to your secondary. So I get the move. Money's a little rich, but then again, it's free agency, so it kind of is what it is. But it's a fine move. It's not one that's like, holy shit, the Falcons are contending now, but like, it's an upgrade for them. It was a move they definitely needed to make. They needed to add something on defense, like you said. They needed some sort of defensive talent. And it puts them in a better position come draft time because now they have one less position they got to worry about on defense. They can really key in on defensive line, which terrifies me because I want Tyree Wilson to be a Bear so bad. It really scares me that y'all are one pick ahead of us with a very big need at defensive end. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid move for Atlanta. And then David Onyemata, obviously, you got to add more talent on the interior of your defensive line as well because all you had was Grady Jarrett. So it's pretty solid.
And then Grady Jarrett's not getting any younger either, so you need to get as much talent as possible. And then obviously getting someone alongside with Arnold Ebiketie, who I love, you really need to. And then they also re-signed Lorenzo Carter, so I like that a lot. And obviously having with Troy Anderson, which I love that Troy Anderson pick, by the way. Like I mentioned in David's podcast over the summer when we did the Falcons preview, I loved that Anderson pick. I'm glad that he played really good last year. So really, they're just a pass rush away, and I think the Falcons have a solid defense, and then they can maybe build on even more. And then all you really need is just, if Ridder pans out, I think the Falcons could be a good team, especially in a weak conference in the NFC. They also re-signed Cliff Lindstrom, which was very needed. I love that move. And then they also re-signed Caleb McGarry as well. So Falcons kind of getting it together on offensive line. I would like to see them get a tackle because Jake Matthews isn't getting any younger. But other than that, I mean, Falcons aren't doing a bad job. And I believe they just signed Mac Hollins to a 1-year deal today. If I can double check from ESPN, because I got an ESPN notification. Yeah, Mac Hollins agrees to a 1-year deal with the Falcons, and he had a career high last season, having almost 700 receiving yards. So
He's a UNC guy. I got love for him.
there we go. There you go. See, there we go. Jarrett, you got anything?
Special teamer
Yeah.
on top of that as well.
The Falcons are in a very interesting timeline right now because I don't, on paper, I don't think they're the best team. They're very middle of the pack. But also, if you look at their division, there's the Buccaneers, which weren't great last year. They lose, Tom Brady. They're probably going to be a bottom dweller. I like Baker Mayfield and I have love for him, but he's not going to be great. That team is not going to go places. Then you have the Panthers, who are traded up for the number 1 pick. They have a lot of good, solid pieces, but a lot of question marks. So they're very middle of the pack. And then you have the Saints, which Dennis Allen, I kind of liked the hiring at first. Last season, I lost a lot of confidence in him. I think that he's not really built for the head coach role. I think he's a great defensive coordinator, not built for that. So your division is very, very weak. There's not really a powerhouse in it. So it's a very winnable division. But like I said, they don't have a very win now roster. I think that the signing of Jesse Bates kind of signals that may be the direction they're going in. They're like, okay, this is a very winnable division right now. That's something we can do. They do have a lot of pieces I do like, as both of y'all have mentioned. I think the 2 holes that they need to fill mostly to be a playoff caliber team is, like you said, pass rush. I do think they need at least one more solid to good receiver. Drake London was a rookie, but that's one guy. I guess Mac Hollins is going to be their number 2.
Yeah, I guess so.
Zacchaeus is very. It reminds me of the Bears, where we had Mooney, and we're Mooney's he's a debatably number 1, and the other guys we can deal with, and we lied to ourselves for years about this, and then it finally, we get DJ Moore, and it's oh, we actually have a receiving core now. I feel like that's where the Falcons are. They really need to go and get another receiver, whether it be trade, draft, something. Which there are a lot of solid receivers in this draft. I could see them getting.
They should take Quentin Johnston at 8.
They should, leave.
Everyone
should not take Tyree Wilson.
Yeah.
Should go no earlier than 9. But
that's what I'm saying. Overrated prospect. Taking him any higher than 9 is a massive risk, in my opinion.
I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that, but they can get a receiver in the other rounds, but we really need a pass rush.
Pick 8 would be great. Why don't you take Miles Murphy from Clemson? I've heard great things about that guy.
The fan base who drafts Miles Murphy are going to be in shambles. I feel like no one likes him. No fan base likes him. They're all it's just the one they throw to their division rival who they don't like.
But it's because Miles Murphy's such a fucking weird draft prospect.
He is.
I don't know. Have either of you sat down and watched him?
I haven't watched a lot on him, no. I
watched a little bit of him.
So, the gist of it, Jarrett, just so you know, I don't know if you know anything about him or not, but since you haven't watched him, just to fill you in 2021, he looked like a world beater at edge, right? He was dominant, he was running through people, he had this great athletic profile, good run defender, great at finishing plays. He just looked as good as what people are making Will Anderson out to be. And then in 2022, none of that was on tape. None of it. He became this fat, easy to move edge that refused to attack the inside. I saw a play. I don't know if you guys follow JPow NFL, my boy Jackson, but he posted it where Murphy was lined up at 4-eye and tried to attack the edge, went out of his way to try to run around the tackle instead of cutting inside, and it was the most absurd thing I've ever seen.
I think I did see this, because this sounds eerily familiar.
Yeah, literally, there's a tackle and a tight end to his left, and then he's lined up over top, or in between the tackle and the guard, and instead of attacking the guard's inside, or the guard's outside shoulder and the tackle's inside shoulder, he tries to run around the tackle and just gets lost in the play. and then he had really bad issues finishing. It's just like it's the literal yin and yang, complete opposite players on tape between 2021 and 2022. And I don't know, maybe we're all looking too much into that 2022, but I mean that's his most recent season in college. That's the most recent version of him we've seen.
Right.
So I don't know what turned him into Baymax overnight, but it's awful. His tape is atrocious from this season.
Yeah, that doesn't sound pleasant. I hope to God that he's not a Chicago Bear next year, but who knows?
It'll be the Raiders. Just trust.
That sounds like a Raiders pick.
It'll be a Raiders pick for sure. I'm not gonna lie.
The Raiders will take who was the corner that ran like a 4.26 or something stupid? That's like a third round projected guy. That's their pick. The Raiders, they always draft
the
either
Al
the
Davis
fastest,
special, you know.
Yeah, they draft the fastest guy on the board or they draft a kicker. There's no in between. Unless it was the Mike Mayock era where they were taking third round graded tackles in the first round and trying to start them day one.
Oh man.
Shout out Alex Leatherwood though. We got their scraps.
Nah, Raiders. Them and having a history of just cutting their first round picks. Wow.
Cutting them or them getting arrested?
Both,
that's true. Yeah.
It's kind of insane how their first round picks have went over the last few years. Like it seems like generationally bad luck or bad scouting or both, but it's a whole lot of bad that doesn't seem like it be capable to happen in the 3-4 year span. But the Raiders did it, so congrats to them.
What's gonna end up happening is Jalen Carter's going to fall to them at 7, and he's going to reverse their voodoo curse, because his draft stock's starting to fall with his bad pro day and all his off-the-field shit, and they're going to see that and be like, fuck it, we'll take the risk, and then all of a sudden he's just going to become like Aaron Donald 2.0 and reverse their curse. Or he's going to completely flop and be like, oh my god. Hammy, you should know this. You're a Packers fan. Who was the tackle that y'all took in the same year that like Barry Sanders and Troy Aikman were drafted that was out of the league in like 3 years because he was a roidhead?
Oh,
Tony Mandrich.
Mandrich,
Tony Mandrich.
Yeah.
That's his name. Yeah, it'll be one or the other extreme if he goes to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. He's either a world beater or he's Tony Mandrich, but defense.
Yep. Man, Raiders are gonna Raider.
I don't know, like, play style wise, but like how his draft stock is going kind of reminds me of Robert Kondichi from whatever year that was. I think it was probably like 2018. He was a defensive tackle who was supposed to be early first, and then I don't even remember what the thing was, but his draft stock like plummeted, and then the Cardinals, I believe, took a shot on him like way later than he was supposed to be. Now that he ended up not doing well, and he's bounced around the league, and I think he's now out of the league. But that's what this Jalen Carter situation is reminding me of.
Man, I hope not. Yeah. It's kind of also like Laramie Tunsil's too, when he was falling, and then the next thing you know, the Dolphins take him. Then they trade him for 2 first-round picks, and now
they turned the Dolphins turned a guy smoking weed into a dynasty. So
yeah, and then now he gets the richest contract.
That's the key for Chicago. He slips to 9, and we turn him into a dynasty.
Exactly.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean. The Falcons, I mean, they're also kind of starting to gear up. And I didn't even mention, they re-signed Keith Smith. Yeah. And I love it. But then I kind of want to see Arthur Smith get really, really crazy and activate Clint Rakovich from the practice squad. Because I love Clint.
Honestly, if you want to get freaky, you could probably run Clint as your halfback.
Dude, I want to see it.
Ability to do it. The only slight against Clint, I'll have to look it up. I don't think his 40 time was the greatest, so running him to halfback might not be ideal. But I mean, you know damn well I love. 4.63 is not ideal, but you know damn well I love Clint Rakovich more than anybody. Too. So I want to see him play too, but I don't know if that's going to happen with the big year Keith Smith just had.
That's true. I mean, then again, Arthur Smith will do something weird anyways. I mean. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, you could have goal line packages.
Goal line. Yeah.
Like that.
Have like a fullback 1, fullback 2, have a fullback duo, just, alternate at times.
Fullback by committee.
There you go, fullback by committee. Hey, why not? I'm all in.
Pull Andy Janovich out of free agency. Bring his career back.
There you go.
3-headed fullback monster.
The Falcons would be the fullback team, and Oh, fucking love it. And then Miller would just
Not see what would happen though if that happened is the Niners would one up you and trade Christian McCaffrey for Pat Ricard and Ben
there you
Mason,
go.
and then go get like five other. They'd go get C.J. Ham somehow, and they would just make their entire offense consist of fullbacks. Get Johnny Stanton out of free agency, play him at quarterback, let
There
him go
you
back to
go.
his high school days.
And then yet they'll be one of the best offenses in football despite that, which would
Because
be
Shanahan knows how to abuse fullbacks.
he knows, and we love it. We absolutely love it.
Mhm.
We're big fans of it. But
Mhm.
but yeah, Keith Smith's back. Love Keith Smith, former linebacker who got converted to a fullback. You'd love to see it. And then I do want to see Clint Rakovich get some playing time if possible. They also traded for Jonnu Smith, gave up a 7th round pick to get him. So pretty much meaning that you're gonna have him block and probably run like maybe a 2 tight end set. Who knows? But at least Kyle Pitts probably doesn't have to block as much, so that's good.
Yeah. I think you'll probably see a lot of Kyle Pitts moving around as well. Like obviously
Mhm.
you're going to want to keep him a tight end in certain situations just because of
Right.
the mismatch you get with linebackers and safeties covering him.
Mhm.
But like we brought up earlier, like Jarrett mentioned how bad the receiver core is right now, you're probably going to see him split out wide more often than not and have
Right.
him and Drake London as your two guys on the outside, and then Zaccheaus is still on the Falcons, right?
Yep. They still have to
Yes.
eliminate Zacchaeus.
Yeah. He would be a solid slot in those type of packages, or they could draft somebody. I mean, the receiver class, in terms of the top echelon guys, isn't the best, but once you get into the mid rounds, there's some gems.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I just hope they don't take a receiver that early like they did with Drake London last year, but hey, London was
Yeah.
solid. London was solid though, so I
Y'all
wouldn't.
took him before Garrett Wilson, right?
Yeah, he was the first
Yeah.
receiver taken last year.
Yeah, that's
So
bad
that
look.
kind of looks bad, but I mean, then again, it's not like London played bad, so I won't complain. So it's not something that I wouldn't
No, he
complain. But
didn't play bad, but y'all could have had a future All-Pro if you'd have taken either of the Ohio State receivers.
yeah, for
Chris
sure,
Olave
I would
is
have preferred.
goated, bro.
I do love
Yeah, they're
Olave.
both awesome.
I was wanting either Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave to be a Falcon. So, but
Well,
anywho, I mean, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say all Bears fans love Chris Olave because we put this dream in our head that for some reason he was gonna slide to the second round. Don't know how that happened. We're like, yeah, he's totally a second round pick. He's gonna
Oh
fall to us, and we're
yeah,
gonna get Chris Olave for just that. I mean, he went
Packers
what
fans
There
were
was
12.
doing the
a
same
So
thing.
there was a slow like realization to it though. I
Mhm.
don't know why I said though twice. Uh, but it was like Jarrett said, it started out that Olave was a second round pick, and then it was like, oh, he's gonna fall into the late first round, and Ryan Poles is gonna trade up for him. And then it was like mid first round, it was like we're gonna trade up for him, and then eventually everyone was like, okay, it's not gonna happen. But yeah, we really did try to gaslight ourselves into thinking Chris Olave could be a Bear. That was so
looking
funny.
Packers
back
fans
on
were
some of
doing
the
the
things
same
that Bears
thing.
fans do is ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
Like that one
Packers
dude who called our receiver core the Legion of Zoom.
fans.
Oh my god, that
I
was the
forgot about
worst.
that. I saw that tweet when he tweeted it last year, and I didn't even like think anything of it. And then I saw someone called him out for calling it Legion of Zoom. So I
Yeah.
went back and saw the tweet, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about that.
Oh
Yeah, that's
no.
what we do. We hype up Dante Pettis and Equanimous St. Brown. That's what Bears fans do.
I mean, listen, dude.
Yeah.
Being proud of your team is something that's not wrong, so I don't blame Bears fans for
Well,
doing that.
there's a difference between being proud and being delusional.
That is true, though. There is
See,
a major difference with that.
my big question here. Last year, I feel like 90% of Bears fans were like, yeah, we have a good receiving core. Dante Pettis was good that one rookie year in San Francisco. Equanimous St. Brown knows the offense. He can, develop into a great
Velus
receiver, and
Jones
Mooney's
is
a number
so
one.
light.
And yet the
And
Packers
then,
barely
yeah,
used Equanimous.
well, now we're in this year going into this season, and we have DJ Moore, Mooney, and Claypool, who are like way better of a core than we had last year. And Bears fans are like,
Absolutely.
yeah, DJ Moore, I don't know if he's a number one. He's a relatively okay number two, and then
Dude,
Claypool
I
and Mooney are
saw
garbage.
that.
We have
Yeah,
it
Like,
makes
are
no
they
sense to
losing
me.
their
and then
minds?
oh my god, and then you have the idiots mocking Jackson Smith and Jigba at 9.
Oh, they're still doing. Yeah, it's either
Yeah.
him or Bijan Robinson, the running back at number 9, and I'm like, please stop,
And these are the
don't do it.
same people crying that Poles didn't overpay a right tackle.
I got called out for calling out Bears fans for being
I
so negative
know,
about
I saw
everything.
that. I saw that.
I am so
I
glad you did
saw
not
it
go
was
Orlando Brown.
AJ, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Guy named AJ.
He followed me like a few weeks ago, and then I followed him back. We've had some reasonable conversations, and that happened. And he's like, just ignore them. I'm like, no,
It's all
it's a
that's
problem that
there.
needs to be fixed. Yeah,
Man.
literally all like because how Twitter's set up now, where just like not even people you follow, just like people things you're interested in. It's all Bears fans complaining about everything. Is all I ever see.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
I mean,
It's the absolute worst.
the way Bears fans are acting about Ryan Poles not going after Orlando Brown Jr., you'd think what happened was that we had like a superstar right tackle. Like we had Tristan Wirfs, and Poles traded him away with no true backup plan and is ready to roll into the season with Larry Borum. Whereas we obviously never had anything to begin with at right tackle. But they're acting like they were spoiled with right tackle talent and lost it. Now they're desperate to get it back. It's fucking absurd, dude.
I am so glad you
I
did not go Orlando Brown. That would
Orlando Brown Jr. sucks.
he's
He's not good.
he is living off of name value. How are people? Did people not realize he was like top 10 in pressures allowed?
He was top 5 in pressures allowed
Yeah,
last
that's who.
year.
I don't get it,
I-
dude. Oh, and like you
Yeah.
watch this film, and it's like, dude is losing leverage almost every play. I don't.
Look, I obviously don't have a lot of room to talk to call somebody out on their physical appearance, but he's fat and slow. Like he's not a good tackle. He would make a good right tackle in a gap scheme,
Right?
and that makes sense. But a right tackle or a left tackle in a zone scheme, which is what Chicago runs, makes no sense. And you bring that up to anybody on Bears Twitter, and it's like, oh, are you a scheme expert now? No, you just have fucking common sense. Zone schemes
Exactly.
require the lineman to get out and move. If this
Mhm.
dude is fat and slow, he can't get out and move. He's going to be running around like the fucking fat kid playing dodgeball at recess. That's not going to work.
I feel like anyone who thought we were signing Orlando Brown literally doesn't know anything about Ryan Poles, because if you look at the players he signed, especially offensive linemen on like the RAS scale, they're all
Yes.
really high scores, like insanely high. Orlando Brown had like a -7. Like there was no hope of us getting him.
Yeah.
Like there was no shot. And I think at that point when people wanted him as badly as they did, it's because all of like the big names were gone and he was like the last one left. And they're like, well, we got to get someone who I've ever heard of, so we got to get him. It doesn't matter how good he is or anything.
Yeah.
But he's bad.
If you look at Braxton Jones's RAS score last year, that's kind of the template of what he's looking for in a tackle. Braxton Jones measured in super athletic. I think he had a 9+ RAS score. He measured him with super long arms, and he was quick. And that's what Poles wants in tackles. Braxton Jones is the template. And there's guys like that in this class. You've got both the Ohio State tackles. You've got Broderick Jones from Georgia. The only tackles I can like out of the top guys, the only one that really doesn't fit what we're looking for, RES wise, is Darnell Wright, because I don't think he ran well. But even then, like he's still not the slowest guy in the world, and you could make him work if you got him to slim down a little bit. So it makes perfect sense that he's waiting to draft a tackle, especially because it's very rare that you find a franchise tackle in free agency. People don't let those guys walk. If you're a tackle in free agency, there's probably a reason for it. Like Orlando Brown Jr. turning down $130 million because he thought he was worth more, and then settling for what, like 60?
So it was something like that. He took like a huge pay cut.
Oh man, rip Joe Burrow. He's gonna need Lamar Jackson's mobility at this point. Oh man.
Oh my god! Like, listen, I will say he's an upgrade from Jonah Williams, who Bears fans were wanting us to trade for after he became available. When he's the same thing as Orlando Brown, fat and slow. But it makes no sense. This fan base doesn't understand anything about football. It doesn't take a fucking genius to understand what the team needs and what type of players we need to be going after. Yet you'd think when you bring it up, you're trying to talk to monkeys or people that have no concept of the English language. It's moronic. I shouldn't have used monkeys as an example. They're going to take that out of context and make me look bad. But you get my point.
Yeah, I get you, dude. And they were just doing the same thing when they used the linebackers that you signed, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, and it's like, why didn't we just give Roquan that? And other people were going the same way. I'm like, dude, the Roquan just did not fit the Bears scheme, what they were wanting to do. Roquan benefits in a 3-4 defense, which is not what Chicago was kind of running, and therefore that's why Chicago needed 2 linebackers for them to, fit their scheme. But anyhow, while we're on the topic, probably just a couple signings here, then we will get to the Chicago Bears because they made some good splashes. Lions got corner Cameron Sutton on a 3-year deal, $33 million. Someone to beef up their secondary, which awesome. Cam Sutton's not a bad corner, and if they get a corner in this draft, whether if it's like Christian Gonzalez or a Devon Witherspoon, having that with Kuda being probably your corner 2 and then Cam Sutton being your corner 3, that's not a bad secondary at all. So something to get there. Let's see. Raiders signing Jimmy Garoppolo on a 3-year deal. I wonder if this would, right the whole Battle of the Bay type of rivalry that the Niners and Raiders have, because obviously they had like this whole rivalry of the Bay stuff. So Jimmy G reuniting with Josh McDaniels, quarterback for the Raiders. Also the Raiders signed Jacoby Myers. So that's interesting. But let me know what you guys think about what the Raiders are doing, because they kind of made some signings here.
Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Garoppolo trade. I have said this on the other podcast. In my opinion, Garoppolo is just Carson Wentz with a jawline. He's not a very good quarter. Like, he's not bad. He's very like game manager, can win you games, but he's not going to go out and win you games like single-handedly or anything. Jacoby Myers, he's again not bad. He's just an average receiver, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what he is. I just don't really know what they're doing per se, because it doesn't seem like they really have a direction. It seems kind of like a let's just stick band-aids on it and hope to make the playoffs at some point, instead of what I think they need to do is go full rebuild. If you're getting rid of Derek Carr, who is an aging quarterback who wants a lot of money, why would you then get rid of him and get a different aging quarterback who wants quite a lot of money? That is, in my opinion, quite a lot worse than Derek Carr is. Then, like if you just would have gotten rid of Carr and then, traded Waller, it's like, okay, that looks like a rebuild. But then, you're signing Garoppolo, you're signing Myers. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think that of all of the, dumpster fire teams in the league, I think the Raiders are definitely the biggest dumpster fire, in my opinion, which I'm sorry, because Raiders fans have had a hard life. I understand. I've lived with my stepdad. He's just constantly in sorrow from having to watch that team play football. They had a little glimmer of hope when they got Adams, and now they're right back down the downhill, spiral. They just don't have a direction, which was a lot like whenever the Bears had Ryan Pace. I bring up the Bears a lot, and I'm sorry, it's just kind of
no, you're good.
when we had Ryan Pace, it was kind of a thing. We didn't have a direction. He just kind of like, hey, I like this player. He's on our team now, sticking band-aids all over the place instead of either completely rebuilding or, going all out and filling out a roster. It was just kind of somewhere in the middle. And I feel like that's what the Raiders are doing. And that should not be what their direction should be. I think full-on rebuild is what they need, and they're obviously not doing that. I think that's not a recipe for success for at least 5 years. They're just delaying the inevitable.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think the big thing is the Raiders are worried they're not going to end up with a quarterback in this year's class, which is very reasonable given the fact that they're sitting at 7 and the teams that could trade out at the top. You have teams that will probably go quarterback. Like, if the Cardinals trade out of 3, there's a very, very, very real chance we see 4 quarterbacks go back to back to back to back. And if that happens, the Raiders are kind of screwed. So I get wanting to have a veteran quarterback in the building. And Garoppolo's a little bit cheaper than Carr. He's familiar with Josh McDaniels' offense. So I get that signing. I don't hate it as much as Jarrett does, although I understand where the dislike comes from because it's Jimmy fucking Garoppolo. And then with Jacoby Myers, like, you got to have receivers on your team to a certain extent. And, I mean, they had They have Tay, obviously, but outside of that, Hunter Renfrow took a step down. He's basically a special teamer at this point. I don't even know who their other number one or their number two receiver would be opposite Tay. I guess Mac Hollins at one point would have been that.
It
It
was Mac
was, and then
Hollins. I don't know who it is now.
and they just lost into the Falcons too, so I don't know.
Right. It's tough. So like I get why the Raiders are making the moves they're making because they want to act like they're competitive against
Right.
the big daddies in the AFC West, but
But it's like they're
we all
doing
know
it
they're not
so
gonna be.
wrong. They're doing it so wrong, and I don't even know who their third string tight end is because they just lost Darren Waller to the Giants.
Jesper Horsted.
Yeah.
Oh,
Legend.
is he their number one tight end right now?
Yes,
'Cause
as of
Yeah.
right now, I believe he is.
listen,
Yeah.
listen.
And then
Bears
Bellinger's just-
fans, we love Jesper Horsted, but
There you go.
no.
Ah, okay. So it is Jesper. Okay.
If I'm-
Yeah, because there's a
Yeah.
chance that Foster Moreau is probably going to end up leaving Las Vegas, and they traded Waller to the Giants, so Waller's going to have to deal with Daniel Jones, which I'm praying for him, but we'll have to see. But then again, Brian Dable's there. He's going to cook up something very special, which I have full trust in. But the one thing, though, I kind of was a bit weird on, Juju Smith-Schuster signed with the Patriots, but like if you're looking at the numbers, I'm not sure about the guarantees. I think it might be a little bit different, but like the total length of the contract and like the maximum that you can earn, it's the exact same for Jacoby Myers and Juju Smith-Schuster. I kind of thought that was a little weird. I don't know.
Well,
That's something I was kind of wondering.
Juju is just Jacoby Myers that can block. So that's probably where they're going with that. They're probably going to be leaning more into the run game next year. And Juju Smith-Schuster, for all of his faults, is an incredible run blocker at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, he is.
And he's a damn solid slot receiver on top of that. He was pretty productive with Mahomes. Obviously, that's probably not going to be the case with Mac Jones throwing him the football, but at the very least, Ramondre Stevenson's going to have another good blocker out wide. So I understand why they did it.
Right.
He's like the embodiment of a Belichick receiver. Like, he is exactly what Bill likes. He likes his gritty little slot receivers that are willing to get their hands dirty in the run game, and that's exactly what Juju is.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good one. And just to mention about him, Juju being productive with Mahomes, he was probably the other reliable red zone target outside of Travis Kelce this year. Juju kind of revived his career, and it's nice to see Juju being back because I still remember his 2018 season with Pittsburgh. But yeah, like you mentioned, a guy that's a good blocker in the slot, much better blocker than Jacoby Myers, so makes a lot of sense for Bill Belichick to go for him. I'm curious to see what Bill O'Brien can do with the offensive coordinator. Could Mac Jones revive himself and, be a competent quarterback or not? Because Mac Jones had to suffer with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and I can guarantee you that's a recipe for disaster for anyone that has to deal with those two. But now that he has an actual offensive coordinator, because the Pats really didn't even have one, they were just like alternating with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. But kind of curious to see what they do, considering that they were together in college. So hopefully seeing what Bill O'Brien does with the Pats offense, how it looks like. But I will say the running game will be better. I am liking what Ramondre Stevenson did last year, and I think Ramondre Stevenson has a chance to get even better. I think there's a chance we might see they'll still do that running back committee thing like they did. Damon Harris is probably gone, so they'll probably see a little bit more Pierre Strong.
Yeah.
So, maybe you'll see Hunter Henry get a little bit more active. I don't know, but I think it's just a lot of question marks. But I mean, we'll see what Bill O'Brien can cook up. But other than that, the run game, I think New England's going to be pretty good.
My other question with New England's offense is now that they traded Jonnu Smith, who was their pseudo fullback, he's an H-back.
Right.
That's what he is. I wonder what their plan is there, because Belichick's always had a fullback in his offenses, always. And last year they tried this experiment where they changed it up and they were running with an H-back rather than a fullback. So I wonder if they're going to be looking to draft one. I think Bill Belichick getting his hands on Hunter Lepke would be fucking insane because I'm sure Belichick would be able to do the wildest, just most absurd bullshit
Oh
with that
yeah,
kid's skill set.
yeah.
So I'm curious to see what he's gonna do there. I think that's something to monitor because I don't think Belichick's gonna go into the season without somebody he can play in the backfield as a blocker and line up as a in between the offensive line and the tailback. Even though Ramondre Stevenson's weird and said he prefers to run without somebody lead blocking for him,
Mhm.
it's just not Belichick's style.
I wonder if they could go and. I wonder if the Pats would somehow draft Darnell Washington, tight end from Georgia, because that dude's a hell of a blocker, and Belichick loves those
Yeah.
types of guys. But I don't know if Darnold could do that H-back type of thing, though. He's crazy
No,
athletic.
he's a little bit too big.
Yeah,
He's a
that's the
little too
thing.
big.
That's the thing.
Fullback or an H-back, they can't be taller than like 6'2". That's kind of where you got
Mm,
to cap that out.
right,
I think Jonu's in that range. I don't think he's much taller.
I
I
want
right.
to
could be
say
way
I could be
off.
wrong, but I want to say he's like 6'2", like 6'2", maybe
Six
6'3", but I want to
three,
say he's 6'2".
6'3", close enough. Yeah,
Mm.
He's
fullbacks.
basically a tight end, so I know a little bit about him.
Yeah, it's a leverage thing. When you're playing fullback or you're playing H-back or you're playing in the backfield, you got to be able to get low. And if you're a guy like Darnell Washington, who's what 6'8", 6'9", you're
Yeah, he's
not getting
tall.
low. It's just not gonna happen.
I
It's one of
love
those things that
Washington.
yeah, like I wish my team needed a tight end so badly we would draft him because he's one of my favorite prospects in the draft this year, to be honest.
Well, I
He's
thought there could have been
honestly,
a chance that he could have been our tight end too behind Komet, but then we signed
Yeah.
Tunyon.
yeah,
I
you
don't
guys
think it's
got
very likely.
Big Bobby Tunyon, Chicago native, so
Sure.
um,
I love that signing. It's such a
yeah,
quietly fun signing.
yeah. I love Tunyon. He's kind of a goofy little guy. I love him. But yeah, I mean, uh, Raiders, not sure what they're doing, and then kind of touched on Juju Smith-Schuster and the Patriots a little bit, but let's see other signings we got. Andrew Wiley getting signed by Washington for 3 years.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
that's where he went. I
yeah,
forgot about that.
reuniting with Airbnb.
hmm
Bengals re-signing linebacker Jermaine Pratt.
Which
Um,
was weird. I didn't expect
I
that at
didn't like
all
it.
after the
Neither
stink
did
he
I.
made.
Yeah, I was really against that considering what he did to Joseph Osai. Um, Mike White will be Tua's new backup, apparently, signing a 2-year, $16 million deal. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is a free agent or not, but if from what it looks
He
like,
is,
Mike
I
White.
believe.
Okay, so then that probably means Mike White's their backup. So Teddy Bridgewater might
Or
be,
Skylar Thompson.
yeah.
Still QB3.
Yep, absolutely. No, and while we're at the Dolphins, they made a big acquisition, getting Jalen Ramsey, and in return, the Rams get a 3rd-round pick and tight end Hunter Long. So obviously, the Rams basically was just desperate. They needed to get out of Ramsey's contract. It was like we need to get whatever they can. But Ramsey to the Dolphins, love that move. Moving Xavier Howard to cornerback 2, which I think it's probably best for Howard at this point to be the second corner because his play has declined. And considering that Byron Jones has been released, and I think he's probably heading towards retirement due to what he said about the pills and drugs that he's taken, the painkillers he's taken over his career to where it kind of screwed him over. So praying for Byron Jones. Hopefully he gets better. But I mean Jalen Ramsey. I mean you're going to a team that Vic Fangio is going to be the defensive coordinator, and you have Xavier Howard. Javon Holland is still there. Bradley Chubb. Jaden Phillips. I mean, Dolphins, I mean, they could be one of the best defenses, and I know Vic's going to cook up something very good for with Miami's defense. So, I mean, what do you guys think with what Miami's doing? And considering that Vic Fangio was your former defensive coordinator, I'm sure that you know exactly what Miami is going to be, what you can expect from Miami's defense this upcoming season. So, what do you think Miami's doing so far on the defensive side with Jalen Ramsey?
Um, I mean Ramsey. I know he took a step back last year, but he still had a very very good season in my opinion. I really like Ramsey. He's still a elite lockdown cornerback. And as for Vic Fangio, the rightful, 2018 Coach of the Year, I get Nagy won it because he was the head coach, but we had an awful offense, and it was entirely our defense because
Right.
Vic Fangio, I think, is, if not the best defensive coordinator in the league, he's definitely up there. The dude is insane.
Absolutely.
I really liked that hiring, and pairing that with all of these elite players all across the defense. The Dolphins are very scary.
Mhm.
They already had an insane offense with Hill, Waddle, and now you have this insane defense, which is getting not even just better talent wise, but coaching wise. And to even get Ramsey for basically nothing. Listen, a third round, I get the Rams are maybe desperate, but for a third round pick and a backup tight end,
Right.
the Rams are like my second favorite team. Cooper Cup. I don't have any other reason but other than Cooper. But
That's valid.
I don't understand how desperate you can be to get rid of like a guy like Ramsey for a third and a backup tight, like a second, maybe, but like a third
Right.
and a backup tight end is ridiculous to me. I'm surprised McVay isn't retiring, given that his team is going downward spiral. But the Dolphins, it's insane. They have
Mhm.
great players all across the board on defense, offense. They have an insane receiving core. I think the biggest question mark with the team overall is definitely at quarterback. I'm a big Tua supporter,
Mhm.
but Tua has injury issues. I think it's not like one of those things where they get injured one time and they're injury issues. Tua's been hurt pretty much every year he's been in the league, whether it was like his hip, I think it was a shoulder at one point, broken ribs,
Right.
the concussions. I'm not blaming these on him because like the concussion was like a freak accident. That's not on him whatsoever. But there are some concerns with his injuries, and I think that'll be the biggest factor when it comes to if they are an actual true contender or not. But the
Right.
defensive side of the ball with Fangio, they're going to be a top 5 defense without a fact. Like I would bet all of my bank account that they're going to be a top 5 defense. It's going to be insane.
Oh yeah, for sure. Miller?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Miami's doing defensively, obviously. I will say, in the defense of the Rams, they kind of fucked up and let Jalen Ramsey get all the leverage in the situation because they were like, all right, where do you want to go? And he said, well, I'm going to Miami or I'm going nowhere. And that kind
Yeah.
of spoiled things because that got out. And then Miami was like, well, we're not going to give up as much if we know we're the only team going after him. So hurt his value a little bit. I get what they had to make the move. Obviously, not ideal compensation, but it was the best they could get. And at a certain point, you just got to take that and move on. Um, but I will say, I'm excited to see how this defense is going to pan out because if you look at it compared to the 2018 Bears, for example, just because that's a good frame of reference,
Right.
you have your Eddie Jackson and Javon Holland, who is
Correct.
better than Eddie Jackson ever was.
Right.
You look at your linebacker core, you have your true thumper Danny Trevathan with David Long Jr., who they just drafted, one of the best not just drafted, excuse me, just signed.
Oh yeah.
That was a really cheap contract, like
That
two
was an
years,
awesome
$11
deal.
million. One of the best downhill tacklers in football. You have your Khalil Mack with Bradley Chubb. Granted, not quite as good, but
Right.
still going to be able to play that same role. And then Jalen Phillips can be your Leonard Floyd, big, lanky, run defending edge who can
Mhm.
really get to the quarterback. Again, better than Leonard Floyd, but it is what it is. And then Christian Wilkins is, I know Jarrett's going to hate this one, he's a better Akeem Hicks. I love Akeem Hicks, but Christian Wilkins is a
I
different
think that one
breed of
I can
animal.
agree with like the other ones. I love Bojack, but
Listen,
Holland is better. I
I'm not saying
love
it's
Leonard Floyd.
subjective.
Yeah. But I feel like Akeem Hicks in his prime with the Bears was, one of the better, if one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league.
And Christian
Well,
Wilkins
Wilkins
is
is
as
good.
well. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing
I
with
mean,
that, but I
yeah,
don't
I'm
think
not
you can
saying it's an objective
definitively say
thing. I'm
one's
just
better.
saying, to me personally, I think
Okay.
Wilkins is the better player, primarily
Hicks
because
is my
Wilkins
boy.
is staying on the field a lot more than Hicks. That's the big
That
thing
is
for
fair.
me. Is Hicks had his injury issues, but yeah, he's got this great defense, and then we saw him have big not control, but influence, a big influence on the Philadelphia Eagles defense
Right.
last year, and they were one of the best in football. So now he's coming over to Miami. It's clear that he hasn't lost a step as a coordinator,
Mhm.
so to speak. He's going to come
Right.
in. He's going to have this, too high shell that he loves to run that's taken over the NFL because of him and all of his influence on the league. So it'll be really interesting to see what Miami's defense is capable of, because that's another thing too. He's never had a corner as good as Ramsey, and one of it. Well, No, his time with Pat Surtain, or his time in Denver didn't overlap with Pat Surtain, did it?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think it did. I
yeah,
think.
he had it for 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had
Okay, so
Pat Surtain for 1
even
year.
then, rookie year Pat Surtain's not as good as Jalen Ramsey is. So
Yeah, absolutely.
he's yeah. But yeah, it'll be fun to see what he's able to do. And like Jarrett said, trying to figure out what's going on with Tua and his health is very important because there's no guarantee he even plays next year after everything that went down. And
Right.
honestly, at this point, I wouldn't blame him. You suffer what, 3 concussions in 1 season? That would be enough for me to contemplate retirement. He's
Mhm.
already gotten a good chunk of money. It's not like he's got to play to get a massive bag still. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. But I'm obviously rooting for Miami. I love Mike McDaniel. I love Alec Ingold. I love
Yeah.
Tua. In fact, the only Dolphin I can think of that I objectively don't like is Tyreek Hill. But other than that,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love the majority of that roster, and
I do
I'm
want to
rooting for
point
him.
out, I hope Tua doesn't like I would understand if he retired, don't get me wrong, like health comes first. I really hope that
Yeah.
doesn't cause him to retire for the simple fact. So I bought a Tua jersey like before he ever started the game. I've always been a big Tua guy. And if he gets to end early because of injury, it also makes me look bad because was it last year I so happened to buy a Chicago Bulls player's jersey, Lonzo Ball, who like a week later got
Oh my
hurt and has
I
God.
not
feel
played
so
since.
bad for him.
I have cursed everyone's jersey I've ever bought, and I feel bad.
You have a Fields and a Mooney jersey, don't you?
My girlfriend has a Mooney jersey. I have two Fields jerseys technically, so it like counteracts it. It's fine.
Okay, they balance out. All right. I
I
knew
got a
you or
Mac
your girlfriend had
one,
a Mooney
and then
jersey.
he like the next year, we left. I bought a Hakeem Hicks one last regular season, like when they last season, and then he left that off season. I had a Matt Forte one for a while, but
Oh,
that's about it. I
Ah,
had
that's
three
that's a
Urlacher
jersey I gotta
ones,
get.
but he played for a while, so that's fine. But yeah,
Urlacher
no.
was a different animal.
Every jersey I ever buy, they leave immediately. It's
Urlacher
ridiculous.
scared the living hell out of me. I'll tell you that right now. Him
Yeah.
and Lance Briggs. Oh my gosh.
Best linebacker duo of all time. I don't care what
I think
anybody
I can
says. There's
confidently
never
say
been
that
a better
too.
linebacker duo. Lance
Um,
Briggs is a Hall of Fame talent. I will die on that hill. He doesn't have the awards because he was always playing in Urlacher's shadow,
right.
but statistically, accomplishment wise, in terms of like just how good he was on the field and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
he's a Hall of Fame talent at linebacker. He'll never get in, but he should.
Right. Yeah. Briggs was
That's the
awesome.
best Batman and Robin duo in the history of sports. Jordan and Pippen can suck it. Because Briggs never turned on Urlacher. That's the big thing
Yeah.
there.
And now the best
Pippen hates
Batman
Michael
Robin
Jordan now.
duo. Now the best Batman Robin duo I could probably say is Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Maybe. I don't know.
Uh,
I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean they're up there. I'd have to
Yeah.
think on that one. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
probably biased in saying CMC and McCaffrey, or CMC and Juszczyk.
Juszczyk.
God, yeah,
Best fullback, running back duo in the league. I'll tell you, that's with full confidence I can
without a
say that.
doubt. Without a
Yeah,
doubt. There's
without a
no
doubt.
question.
Jared, like you were mentioning about players' jerseys. For basketball, I used to have an Oklahoma City Russell Westbrook T-shirt, and I bought it on his very last season with the Thunder. And I also have a KD Oklahoma City jersey T-shirt, which I actually didn't even burn, which was actually insane that I still have it. But I also kind of have a tendency of not of kind of cursing now. And then now I recently have a Trae Young jersey, and I don't even know if Trae Young is going to be an Atlanta Hawk next year or not. I don't know. And then Aaron Rodgers jersey's here, and then now Rodgers is going to be a Jet, which I'm going to get into later on. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love what Miami's doing. I mean, Tua's health, big concern, and also their offensive line too. And I'm kind of curious to see if Durham Smythe's going to be their starting tight end, or if they're going to go tight end in the draft because they lost Mike Gesicki
Oh my
to.
God, Darnell Washington is a Dolphin.
Oh, dude,
Wait,
He's their George Kittle. He's perfect.
dude. Honestly, that would be the one team I would want to see Darnell Washington on, other
Oh
than
my
when's
God, that
Green
would
Bay.
be perfect.
That would be
when's their
awesome.
first pick? Because they don't have a
Early
first.
second round. Early second round.
Okay,
And I think
okay, yeah,
Washington.
Early to mid second round.
Let's see.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're definitely going tight end.
it's a mid-second round pick. They have the 51st overall pick, so it's mid-second round. Yeah, Washington's being mocked to the second round, and so
Oh my God, he's perfect.
Yeah,
Literally perfect.
he
He
fits
is
them
their George
perfectly.
Kittle.
Absolutely, and like with Miami's trying to run, I like it. And obviously, probably beef up the offensive line a little bit just so that you can protect Tua. But other than that, I mean, Miami's looking good, man. That team could seriously I'm this team's gonna make the playoffs again. Like I can guarantee that. And Vic Fangio is gonna be Vic Fangio. I mean, Broncos had the best defense and he was the head coach. Now he's the defensive coordinator. And even then, Eagles had one of the best defenses in football with Fangio being his influencer. Now they have his disciple and Sean Desai, who I actually am pretty high on. So
Yeah.
I still think Philly's defense is going to be good, regardless. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the only thing that Miami really needs, they need a tight end, and as David mentioned, Darnell Washington, 100% fits their scheme, and then Tua's health and maybe a little bit of the offensive line. I think if Miami can address that, complete team. Commanders re-signed defensive tackle Daron Payne. They gave him a record-breaking deal, 4 years, $90 million total, $90 million. Probably good for Washington, keeping that defensive line intact with Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, and then now you're getting Daron Payne, who broke out and has been amazing as a run stuffer. The Bills re-signed Matt Milano on a 2-year, $28 million extension. Matt Milano, one of the better linebackers in football. Bills desperately needed to keep Milano if they can. Their defense is a little bit shaky, but Milano is probably their best linebacker. Probably their best defender if it's not Von Miller. But Bills really needed to keep him. Jets re-signed linebacker Quincy Williams on a 3-year deal. Not a bad one. I like that one a lot.
Fuck.
Also, you're good. Commanders also claimed Cam Dantzler, and apparently Vikings fans are telling me that this guy sucks. But like, I thought Cam Dantzler was their best corner, so I'm not
He's
exactly sure what
alright.
I'm not exactly sure what to believe him. I thought Cam Dantzler was solid, so
From what
Yeah,
I
no,
know,
he's
he's
definitely
solid.
solid.
He's not like elite or great or anything, but he's not bad. It's one of
right.
those things I think from Vikings fans is whenever a player leaves, then you immediately are like, oh, they were bad the whole time. We don't need them. It
Yeah.
happens every player every year. Bears
Mhm.
fans are doing it with Monty currently. Like it just happens like that. It's dumb, but it's how it happens.
Yeah.
Man, dude, I got into an argument with this group chat, and I was defending Monty my entire life. Of like, the Bears are gonna regret, and they were trying to tell me that Khalil Herbert was the better back, and I'm just like, no, he's not. Everything Monty does is so much better than what Herbert does. I'm not saying that Khalil Herbert's bad. I think he's good, but Monty is just much better at pretty much about every single thing that you can ask Khalil Herbert to do. But they were just pulling up like numbers a game like I'm like, dude, just watch the film. I mean, you can clearly tell that Monty is the better running back. But like I said with Monty, I'm glad that he's going with a great offensive line because I really think Monty's being severely disrespected because of him averaging 4 yards a carry, which I'm like, people really need to understand context as to why that's the case. And now he's going into a really great offensive line. I could see him averaging about 5 to 6 yards per carry with the great Detroit Lions offensive line. So, but that's that. Um, Patrick Peterson is a Steeler. Um, this is a signing that I really love. Even though it's a team that I kind of do not like because of a certain individual they have on that roster, but the Browns got an edge too in Obo Okoronkwo, which was a huge steal. 3
For
years,
sure.
$19 million. Having your edge two besides Myles Garrett and probably Jadeveon Clowney might be walking, but him, Okoronkwo being his replacement potentially, awesome steal. I love that move, and especially for a Browns defensive line that was so terrible against the run. Okoronkwo is a beast at it, and Browns
Mhm.
really nailed it with that. You guys want to add about that? Because that was a signing I really loved.
Yeah, I wrote an article the morning before free agency kicked off at like 4 in the morning. I think I ended up publishing, and it was like 10 guys that the Bears could go after in free agency, and it was 10 guys that I really liked, and one of them was Okoronkwo, and I listed him as like one of the best dark horse edge candidates for any team that needed edge help, because he said, I mean, he is really good. Hammy obviously was hyping him up just a moment ago. He's great. Uh, but it's ironic because every single one of those players in that article signed, and not a single one signed with Chicago, including David Montgomery, who was the last player on it. But yeah, I really like Okoronkwo. He was a great signing for them. And then retaining Ethan Pocic, their center from last year, who was by far
Yes.
the best center on the market for like pennies on the dollar. The contract was nothing. Like
Hmm.
those were two really good signings. Cleveland absolutely killed the first few days of free agency and then got kind of quiet. But I
Yeah.
hate to say it, but Cleveland definitely did good.
Yeah. I kind of didn't like how they're releasing John Johnson, because I think he's a good safety. And I'm hearing the Chargers are probably going to re-sign him, which, I mean, someone that's familiar with Brandon Staley, it
Mhm.
would make sense for him to reunite. So I would like, so kind of nice to see if Johnson actually does go to the Chargers. But yeah, the Browns are doing a good job so far addressing the run. That was one of their biggest issues last year. And I literally remember when when the Falcons literally traded Deion Jones. Browns fans were trying to tell me that Deion Jones was not washed. And like, oh, he's just massive because of against the run because of his pro football focus type of grade that he got against the run. It was like a 95 sort of type of thing. I'm like, dude, just stop. I mean, like it was just like I don't know. I was wasting my time just like trying to defend because I'm just like, okay, just watch Deion Jones. This dude's not the same. And then now, but I mean, they got rid of whoever their previous defensive coordinator is. I can't remember his name. And then getting what's his nuts? The f- he was the defensive coordinator from Philly. Um, he was the old one.
Oh,
Jim
shit.
Schwartz. There we go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the new DC. Good defensive coordinator, not a bad one. Major upgrade than the one that they had. I can't remember who their previous one was. Joe Woods, that's him. But
Yeah.
um but yeah, Okoronkwo, that was a signing I really loved by Cleveland. Such an awesome signing by them. And other than that, I don't know if the Browns made any other moves. Obviously, David mentioned re-signing Ethan Pocic, keeping that offensive line, which is consistently one of the best offensive lines in the league, keeping that intact. I mean, as long as Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin are there, um, Browns offensive line still one of the best in the league. And then obviously Nick Chubb, probably the best running back in football. If we can, I think probably something we can all agree with. Um, and then and there's a chance. I mean, rumors are saying they could trade for DeAndre Hopkins if possible, but I don't know if they'll be able to work at that. So, um, see what Cleveland does. I think a player that I was kind of a little high on pre-draft was David Bell. I kind of would like to see him get utilized a little bit more, but other than that, I mean, Cleveland hasn't done much since. Um, let's see. Draymond Jones is now a Seattle Seahawk. That's good for Seattle to address that defensive line. I can't remember that guy's name, but apparently a lot of Seahawks fans were happy with him being their edge, and but like even then Seattle needs help on the defensive line. I can't remember. Jackson J Pal NFL was kind of arguing with Seahawks fans about it. I can't remember that defensive line, that dude on the defensive line's name. He was a pass rusher. Um, that Seahawks fans that were saying that he was good, but even then
Uh,
they,
on the that was already on the Seahawks roster.
yeah, I can't remember who it was.
I'm not sure.
Hmm. That's whoever it was, but apparently they needed somebody to they need to draft a pass rush because apparently whoever the guy that they have going on right now isn't really that good. I'm pretty sure it
Hmm.
will come back at some point. Maybe I have to look it back in Twitter. But either way, Seattle doing good stuff on the defensive line. They released Shelby Harris and so they replaced him with Draymond Jones, which was awesome. Not a bad move. Let's see. Jimmy Ward is a Texan, so obviously someone that's familiar with D'Amico Ryan's scheme. Definitely love to see that happen. Texans are also making some moves too, giving Laramie Tunzel the biggest contract for a tackle, and then obviously trading for Shaq Mason. Pretty sure that this is Bryce Young, which wonder if that's the quarterback. I'm
Very
pretty sure
possible.
very much possible they'll end up taking. Um, Marcus Davenport is a Viking, and apparently Saints fans are happy that Marcus Davenport's not on their team anymore. So, they think,
I don't know much about Marcus Davenport, but I just know that like he's had injury issues, and then
yeah,
last year he, at least stats wise, he did a whole lot of nothing. I think he had half a sack, and then the
mhm.
Vikings went and paid him. I want to say it was 12 million per year for a 1 year deal,
I
something
believe
like that.
so. Yeah, I think it was 13. It was 13 million. So you were
I don't
close,
want to, I don't want to like hate on him too much because I haven't watched a whole lot of Marcus Davenport, but from what I understand, he doesn't seem like a bad player, but he's definitely not worth 13 million a year as a pass rusher
right?
who doesn't do a
Right.
whole lot. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't love the signing. I don't hate the signing either.
Yeah. All I just know is that Saints fans are happy that he's not on the team because Saints kind of sucked against the run and Davenport wasn't that good at all. So that's what Saints fans were telling me. But
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
the
know.
big thing is Davenport also wasn't on the field a whole lot, but he
Right.
was solidly productive when he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not the best in the world, but he's also not the worst.
Right.
So I don't know. It's tough.
It's just more so Minnesota putting depth on their defensive line. Considering that they also a guy that I just forgot the Browns signed. They signed Dalvin Tomlinson, which is a good signing for a defensive tackle position. Even though Tomlinson's a little bit older, but still a good run stuffer either way. So I completely forgot that Dalvin Tomlinson is a Cleveland Brown now. Um, Linebacker Caden Ellis, which actually Saints fans were very depressed that he's gone, and Falcons fans are very happy about this signing.
Yeah.
Linebacker Caden Ellis, he is an Atlanta Falcon. And then Eric Kendricks, who the Vikings cut, is now a Charger, and wish I got the Geek Slice's reaction at that one, but it's all
He
good.
knew it was coming. He was talking about that a few weeks before it happened, about how the Vikings are going to start getting rid of everybody.
Yeah,
They had to.
yeah, they had
Defense
no
sucked
choice.
last year. A bunch of guys were old, and they had to clear out money.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they're doing. And then the Vikings, I mean, they're replacing it. They got Byron Murphy, solid corner. And then obviously, if you're banking on Lewis Seen and Andrew Booth to come back healthy, not a bad secondary if you ask me. So just depends on
Yeah,
what
no,
Brian
no.
just depends on what Brian Flores does. Um, so I think we kind of breeze through that. Austin Eckler has been given permission to seek a trade. I don't see a big
Yeah,
market for him. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Eckler's not great.
Third down
I'm
back at best for me. That's what he
I'm
is.
very much on the anti Eckler train. I think he's
Yeah,
a solid gadget kind of running back who can't run between the tackles, but being 28, I believe, wanting, over 10 million a year, he's not getting that. And I don't think
Yeah.
there'll be any trade market whatsoever for him.
I really
yeah.
don't know what team's going to get him. Like, that's the thing. I really don't know what team's going to benefit from him using him. Like, I really can't think who is going to benefit from Austin Eckler because I don't think he's going to be the RB1 regardless. And I feel like the Chargers, for where they're picking, I feel like they should be the ones getting Bijan Robinson. I feel like the run game would be a lot better if they get Bijan Robinson on their team. And I feel like if you want him, if for what Eckler can do, I think Bijan can do just that. I mean, I just don't know if there's a market for Eckler, considering that, as Jarrett mentioned, struggles to run in between tackles. But yet apparently people think Eckler's good because he is a fantasy football king. So, just another reason to not use fantasy as an excuse to say why a player is good in real life. So just for the viewers out there, just don't use fantasy football as your reasoning as to why a player is actually good in real life. Saints are bringing back Michael Thomas on a reworked deal. So I was kind of shocked, but needed to be done considering that he's going to be the highest cap hit of any player in the league after next season. Makes sense. The Vikings re-signed Garrett Bradbury on a 3-year, $15.7 million deal. So Minnesota gets their center back.
Pretty mid center.
Very mid. But let's see. Bucks are going to sign Baker Mayfield. Eagles have re-signed Darius Slay and James Bradbury, so they're still keeping that secondary. Panthers signed Hayden Hurst. Love that move. You need a quarterback's best friend is always a tight end, especially for the quarterback that they're going to get. Hayden Hurst is a solid pass catcher. You love to see that. Let's see, and obviously Cowboys are moving on from Zeke Elliott. Dallas is pretty interesting, and that's something I got to ask you because I was thinking about this morning when they traded for Brandon Cooks, and I've mentioned this in my TikTok video that I posted today. I personally don't view Tony Pollard as a true RB1. Like, I don't think he's capable of being an every downs type of back. I feel like Dallas is better off by using a split running back duo and have either roll with Tony Pollard or their backup running back at this point, Malik Davis, because I don't think they'll be in position to get a guy like a Bijan Robinson. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on the Cowboys in terms of their backfield and what they need to do.
I mean, that one's tough. I would say I don't like the idea of Pollard being their only back either. I think he's capable of being an RB1, but you need a change of pace back in there.
Right.
This is a deep running back class, so I definitely think there's potential for them to find somebody. I don't know why, but Roschon Johnson really feels like somebody that could end up in Dallas. You know, Jerry Jones likes his homegrown Texans, and I don't know if Roschon Johnson's actually from Texas, but playing at Texas for so long and playing in a similar role where he was kind of the second fiddle to Bijan Robinson for so long, that would be fitting. There's other guys like Dwayne McBride from I think it's FAU is the school he goes to. It's one of the little fucking schools, and their mascot is a dragon, and it looks sick as fuck. But I always get
that's UAB, huh?
UAB, that's the one. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Go. I don't know why I know that, but yeah.
No, I suck at colleges. I'm bad. But yeah, I mean, he's another guy that's kind of like a more powerful back, and that's what you need. You need a change of pace back that can run hard between the tackles with Tony Pollard. It's not that I don't think he can't be an RB1. You just need somebody there to complement him.
I feel like RB1 just isn't like as much of a thing nowadays. I feel like every team has, at least 2, sometimes even like 3 capable running backs that they'll rotate between.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Unless you have like Henry or Chubb or someone like that, you don't have a real RB1 anymore.
Right. The same with how.
Right. Unless you have one of the top backs, you're running a committee or a pseudo committee, or you have 2 backs that are getting solid PT for you. And even then, we've seen Cleveland have 2 running backs with Nick Chubb, and Derrick Henry started to split carries a bit more often. So. It's tough for running backs nowadays.
Yeah, shout out to the Browns for the Nick Chubb Kareem Hunt RB running back tandem, because now teams are trying to copy what the Browns are doing. Which honestly, I mean, the Browns, the way they did it was smart, and I don't know if any RB tandem can compete with Chubb and what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were capable of doing, but I still think the Browns are going to continue to do that. I think Demetric Felton, I'm sorry, or I don't remember who else is their other running back, but either one of these guys are going to fill in the Kareem Hunt role.
Ford.
Jerome Ford, that's his name. That's a guy I see getting the Kareem
Was
Hunt role.
a 3 pick last year.
I
It
believe
was either a 4th round pick or he was a day 3 pick. I can't remember which. Well, no, 4th round is day 3. I'm a moron. He was a day 3 pick.
But yeah, I mean, that's a guy I see replicating what Kareem Hunt does. So I still think the Browns are going to still do that. But yeah, like as Jarrett said, like I think teams are now starting to go to that running back duo or running back by committee, and you're going to see probably a lot of that. And I still expect Dallas to do that just to limit Pollard's workload, considering that Pollard is also coming off from a nasty injury that he suffered against the Niners in that playoff game. So I'm pretty sure that Pollard is not going to get like the true type of workload that you would expect a guy like a Christian McCaffrey or a Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs. Like he's not going to, or Jonathan Taylor even. Like he's not going to get that type of workload. But I thought that was something that I wanted to ask you, because that was something I was really thinking whether if they should actually implement Malik Davis a little bit, or if they will go and draft one and then still keep that running RB duo like they did with Zeke Elliott. It's just unfortunate that Zeke's contract was just horrendous, which is the reason why the Cowboys ended up having to cut him. So any other moves that I'm looking at? Taylor Heineke is going to be the backup quarterback in Atlanta. So
he's the starter.
Well, if Ritter doesn't pan out, unfortunately.
No, he's your franchise quarterback. Trust.
And Taylor Heineke, we trust.
Heineke?
Heineke.
Combine 2 different alcohols to make up one name right there.
Taylor Heineke. I mean, the Heineke brand. Oh man, what am I doing?
Yeah, no, I mean you combined Heineke and Hennessy into one name. Like you got the wrong alcohol.
There you go.
It's not Heineke. Heineken is the alcohol.
Heineken. There you go.
Yeah.
Now you got the Hennessy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Jacoby Brissett is a Washington command strip, so that's awesome. Yeah. And now the biggest quarterback move that is expected to happen. Aaron Rodgers has confirmed on the Pat McAfee show on this week that his intention is to play for the New York Jets. And as a Packers fan that has loved Aaron Rodgers his entire career, who's watched football because of Aaron Rodgers, who is the reason why he's a Packers fan because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, every single thing about football, Aaron Rodgers is the sole reason why. I am depressed, but at the same time, I'm very happy that Aaron Rodgers made this decision. I feel like this was a decision that he really needed. The Packers are nowhere near that roster anymore in terms of like contending for a Super Bowl. I don't know why Packers fans keep saying that they're still like in contention for a Super Bowl, which they're obviously not. It was very clear that the roster was going younger last year, and Rodgers' time was soon to be up. And I'm just glad that he chose this decision. Unfortunately, a lot of like controversies going on in terms of like who has the leverage in that trade, and like what compensation the Packers are going to get. I'm just want whatever it gets. As long as Rodgers can just go to the Jets and this trade can just go through smoothly, I don't really care about the compensation personally. But at the same time, I mean, Rodgers won't be in the NFC North anymore, so Packers finishing last in the division, which I expect. But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on this? Oh.
I'm really sad he didn't come to the conclusion that he was going to retire, because then Green Bay wouldn't be getting anything out of him, and they would just have to suffer with Jordan Love and 1 first-round pick. But I mean, it's the smart move for his career. Green Bay is obviously going nowhere right now. They are stuck
Right.
because Brian Gutekunst is a moron.
He is.
I really don't love Matt LaFleur. I've said that quite a few times
Yeah, I don't
publicly. I
either.
think he's an overrated head
He
coach.
is.
So going to New York, they're going to a team that is a quarterback away. Getting Aaron Rodgers on their team probably makes them the favorites to come out of the AFC East, because the Bills are starting to be on the decline.
Right.
We don't know what's going on with Miami's quarterback, and New England's New England right now, which is so weird to say. But I like the move a lot for the Jets, but I also hate it because Aaron Rodgers is going to be the closest he's been to a ring since he went to the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh in, what was it, 2011? 2010,
Right.
2011.
And I was
I
afraid at that time.
Fuck, that was 2012.
It was 2011.
No, it was 2011 because they beat us in the NFC Championship game. That was when fucking BJ Raji had the pick six on
Right.
Caleb Haney. And
I don't talk about Caleb Haney. My least favorite athlete of all time is Caleb Haney.
Yeah, because Jay Cutler had a bloody thumb or something. It was like, I refuse to play any longer.
Oh man.
God, that was my first curse word during that game. That was the first time I cursed. I said fucking Caleb Haney.
Oh man.
And my dad, I didn't get in trouble for it because my dad agreed with the sentiment.
Reasonable, yeah.
I mean, it was reasonable. I won't blame you for that.
Yeah, because God, if you were in the fifth, how old are you now, Hammy?
I am 23.
23. So if you're in the fifth grade, I would have been in the second grade.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't have been my first curse word. Then maybe it was the first time I said fuck. But either way, I remember saying it and then pausing real quick and waiting for someone to, get me in trouble. And my dad was like, "No, bud, you're right." But yeah, that. Either way, for Green Bay, not for Green Bay, for Rodgers, it's a great move. For Green Bay, they're going to get something out of him, obviously, which sucks. And for New York, it's the best possible move they can make at quarterback. I know they're trying to save face with leverage and say that, well, we could go get Matt Stafford still if we really wanted to, but they're going to end up with Rodgers.
It's going to be Rodgers. I mean, I don't see how Nathaniel Hackett's going to work with Matt Stafford anyways. And this is coming from someone that loves Matthew Stafford. And I've been defending Matthew Stafford a lot on Twitter, which I'm not sure if any of you guys have been noticing, but I've been defending a lot of Matt Stafford. Because apparently I feel like people forget about Matt Stafford. It's like they act like he doesn't exist anymore. But, I mean, like I said, yeah, I'm sad. Rodgers is not going to play his entire career in Green Bay, but at the same time, I'm happy for him. And especially for a team like the Jets, and I agree completely with David, heavy favorites to come out of this division. They're probably the most complete team in that division. I mean, Miami, Tua, his health, bit of a concern. And then the Bills, pass catchers other than Stephon Diggs are overrated. I'm not a Gabe Davis guy. They really need.
I like Dawson Knox.
I do, but I feel like people rate Dawson Knox a bit too high than he really is. That's just my.
I don't know. He's in a weird spot.
He is.
I see him get overrated. I see him get underrated. I don't think anyone has a right estimation of where Dawson Knox is. Jarrett, I see you smiling. You got an opinion on him?
Yeah.
You kind of he's in that range because the tight ends structure of the NFL is so weird because you have those 5 elite guys that are way ahead of everyone, and then there's a huge gap, and then there's the mediocre guys, and then another pretty huge gap, and then just trash. Mm-hmm. He's in the upper end of those average guys. I would put him in the same kind of range as a Cole. I think I might put him over Cole Kmet. I'm not sure, but he's somewhere in that range.
I agree.
He's good, but he's not one of those elite guys.
It's like those two, Dalton Schultz, Tyler Higbee,
right?
Njoku.
Yeah.
I'm a blink because obviously you have Waller, Kittle, Kelsey, Pitts, and Goddard as the 5 that stand above everybody.
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of got your bucket of. No, I'm not even gonna say mid because I think they're like
Not
above
mid.
mid.
It's yeah.
They would be like the
Yeah.
above average tight ends, and then there's the big
Yeah.
drop off to mid, and then the big drop off to hot garbage.
It's just
Right.
weird
Which
because like no other positions I feel like in the league are structured that way to where there's just such a huge gap in between each level of the position. So
Right.
it's really
I
hard.
I mean,
Tight end is one of the hardest positions to grade because of that. Because
yeah,
any of your top
tight end
five can
and
kind of go in any order, and then yeah, it's just it's a mess.
yeah,
It's
tight
we
end and
need better tight
fullback are
ends.
both kind of like that.
Right.
Because I mean, there's more. There's like less of a drop off between the first and second tier. Because obviously you have use checks in a tier by, or I guess the second and third tier would be a better way to put it. Because use checks by himself, and then you
Right.
have C.J. Ham, Pat Ricard, and Alec Ingold, and Kari Blasingame and Jakob Johnson in that second tier. And then there's a decent sized drop off, and that's where you get like Reggie Gilliam, Derek Watt, Michael Burton, Troy
Right.
Hairston. And then there's a big drop off, and that's where you get to kind of like the mid fullbacks. And then there's another big drop off after like the 15 range into the guys that are fullbacks just because their team wants an extra guy in the backfield and they're not actually that great at playing the position.
Right.
So
What's a fullback that you hate the most? Like in this league right now.
Giovanni Ricci. It's always Giovanni Ricci.
Oh
He's
man.
not good.
um,
Giovanni Ricci's up there. Ben Mason's up there because Ravens fans are fucking delusional. Oh my god, the amount of people that I've seen say we should cut Pat Ricard and give Ben Mason a chance. No, Ben Mason is a linebacker that plays offense. He's not a fullback.
yes.
He is a full-time special teamer. Those two are probably the big two. Also, not a big Josiah DeGuara fan, even though he's more of an H back, but he
Dude,
still counts.
I don't get I do not like DeGuara either. I really don't.
I just don't like him out of spite for Jake. That's the only reason why I don't like him. I don't actually have anything against him. It's just
Jake.
purely to spite Jake.
Jake. Jake. Gotta love Jake. But yeah. But even then, like DeGuara he's so weird. Like
He's mid. He's
yeah,
mid.
that's what he is. Like,
He is the definition of mid, but it's so funny because he was a fucking second round pick.
that's what pisses me off. It's like, damn it, we spent.
And he
a
wasn't even
second-
drafted to play fullback. He was drafted to play tight end. Sucked at tight end.
And then they try.
That's another reason why I don't like him. Is because
Right.
he embodies that stereotype that people have that are like, oh, fullbacks are just bad tight ends, and like Josiah DeGuara's case, yes, and every other case, no.
Like you mentioned with Giovanni Ricci, what if Tommy Tremble played fullback for the Panthers?
Tommy Tremble would be a sick fullback. I'm on that train 110%. Tommy Tremble, he's got that dog in him, and that's the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Unironically, the biggest thing when it comes to playing fullback is you gotta have that dog in you.
Right.
And Giovanni Ricci does not have it, but Tommy Tremble absolutely does. He's a good blocker. He's got the physical profile. I don't know much about what he can do with the ball in his hands, but he would make a nice fullback for Carolina.
Mm.
If they just get Miles Sanders, they probably won't run a fullback with Miles Sanders.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Plus with Frank Reich. Frank Reich hasn't had a fullback.
That does suck.
That's the big downside of Frank Reich is he didn't like fullbacks. I don't think he ever had a fullback in Indy. No, that was after he left. Indy started running some white boy. I never learned his name, but they ran some white boy tight end in the backfield this year. But that was after he got fired and Jeff Saturday took over, which mad respect to Jeff Saturday for that.
Right.
For bringing the fullback back to Indianapolis for the first time since like let's say Stanley Havili was their last full-time fullback in like 2015, 2016. Either way.
Yeah. Jeff Saturday, one of the smartest
What a
individuals.
guy.
One of the smartest people of the game. And the next thing you know, he brings the most valid position, the fullback, and we love it. But
'Cause he
man,
played center. He knows the importance of that. Just having
Yeah,
somebody on the
man.
field with that dog in him.
F it, let's put Jeff Saturday at fullback. Oh,
he
man.
dropped late. Maybe he could play fullback. Shit.
Dude, I would want to see that. I want to see it. That's something I would be down to see. Jeff Saturday playing fullback, man, I would love it. I would love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Tremble, yeah, he's got that physicality. And the fullback that I really am not too high on is Alex Armah from Washington. I'm not really.
Arma's another guy that's just mid.
Yeah,
fine. He's good. Like he can actually play fullback. That's kind of a big thing for him. Is he's good on like fourth and short and whatnot, but he's
right.
nothing special.
But the fullback that I love, though, Troy Hairston from the Texans. That dude's a
Dog,
dog.
absolute dog.
Man, he's an absolute dog. And pretty much, so I mean, just getting back to the show. All right, and I guess I pretty much just covered all the possible big names. Now we're here for the main event, the Chicago Bears.
Okay, I was gonna say I thought you were about to wrap up
Nah,
without talking about our moves, and I was gonna be
heck
pissed.
nah, no. I was gonna save the best for
Okay,
last. The Chicago
okay, I feel
Bears.
you. I feel you.
Man, Chicago Bears killing it in free agency. They've been very active. Obviously, trading the number one pick, getting DJ Moore and a bunch of picks, signing Deontay Foreman on a cheap deal, which I love. Signing guard Nate Davis, getting TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Talk about the Chicago Bears and, tell the viewers about how you feel about the Bears so far in free agency.
Jarrett, I just rambled about fullback, so I'm gonna let you go first.
I mean, I know there's so much to talk about. It's kind of hard to talk about because there's so much. I know that our team last year, after like all of the trades that we did, where we traded away all of our team captains and whatnot, was a very talent barren roster. And I'm not saying that we're all of a sudden some kind of contender or anything like that, but I
Right.
do think with the moves we've made, we've kind of gotten to that point where I don't know how likely it is, but I could see us sneaking into like the seventh seed in the NFC this year as of
Mhm.
now. But I love some of the moves. I think my personal favorite one is either Nate Davis because I that interior offensive line last year was absolutely atrocious. I think the tackles weren't as bad as they were bad, but not as bad. Nate
Mhm.
Davis, I've seen some film on him. I'm very impressed by him. I think he's an upper tier guard, and we got him for a pretty solid deal. But TJ Edwards, I was shocked when I saw the numbers on that deal. It's
Yeah,
like 6 million a year over 3 years, which
it's a steal.
he's a very, very good linebacker for
He
that kind of
is.
money. Like that is a
Mhm.
solid deal, and I think that he's going to fit in our defense so well. I have nothing against Tremaine Edmonds, but I just like the Edwards deal more to the point where it's like I like the move more than the Edmonds one. I do
Mhm.
like Edmonds, and I think that he is a lot more of a fit for our defense than like Roquan was because I know
Yes.
his numbers aren't quite at Roquan's, but it's like similar enough to where you can make a comparison. But they're not at all the same player. They play very different styles. I really like the fit there. Edwards, like I said, great. Love that move. My favorite one. Nate Davis was solid. As a tight end guy, last year our tight end 2 was Ryan Griffin. I'm not a huge fan of his. Robert Tonyan, on the other hand, was one of my favorite Packers, and now he's on the right side of the rivalry. So big fan of that one as well. I wasn't happy with the Travis Homer signing originally because it happened literally 10 minutes after the Monty signing. As in David's Discord, I remember someone had brought up we signed him, and I was pissed at the time. So I'm like, I don't want that bum. Like, get his name out of my site. But I've kind of grown on me. There's a certain player the Bears drafted last year who I was super high on, and it hurts my soul to know that he's kind of garbage. Was Treston Ebner. What I thought Treston Ebner was going to be, I think, is what Travis Homer is actually going to turn out to be. I think Ebner's kind of, I know he was only been in the league for a year, but I think his time's kind of done. Like pass blocker
Mhm.
for a running back, which I'm really excited to see because Herbert
Mm.
can't do that to save his life. Uh, there are some more moves I would like to see, but overall, I really like a lot of the signings we made. Deontay Foreman, again, a cheap deal. I don't think he's nearly as good as Monty is, but I think he's a very solid, capable running back. I
Right.
think him splitting the carries with Herbert makes me a lot happier than just having straight up Herbert being there. I do want us to get some kind of tackles to instead of Larry Borum. I'm not saying make a big splash, but just something. So we don't kind of have to take right tackle with the 9th overall pick, I would like something like that. And then anything on the defensive line. Listen, this defensive line was atrocious. We needed 4 new starters. Billings isn't bad. I know he's a good run blocker or run stuffer, sorry. So that's at least something because our run defense was atrocious last year. But we have no pass rush. Travis Gibson, of all Bears fans, know he's probably like the biggest letdown of the season. He did absolutely nothing with the extended playing time. So we need some pass rushers. I know that a lot of the guys that I wanted personally are kind of off the board already, but there's some guys that I would like. A little bit of a biased one. I kind of want Leonard Floyd back just because I really liked Leonard Floyd when we got him. I don't think he's that great of a player, but just because my personal bias, I like him. I'd like him back. But a big move that I feel like a lot of Bears fans kind of are glossing over because of our needs on defensive line and right tackle is I want another cornerback. Kendall Vildor improved last season, don't get me wrong, but I still would not feel comfortable walking into the season with him as our starting corner, whether that be like a number 2 corner or in the nickel. I just don't want him there. There are some solid options. Byron Murphy was the guy I wanted the most personally. Went to the Vikings, which really sucks as a division rival, obviously. But there's a few more guys I maybe would be open to because they're at least better than Vildor. But I do understand why Poles isn't just spending money to spend money because we do have a lot of free agents next offseason that we have to extend. I like the way he's done it. I'm not going to be one of those people who just like agree with everything he does. I will call him out if I think he makes a bad move, but overall through free agency, I've liked pretty much all of the moves he's made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree 100%. I love what he's done in free agency so far. DJ Moore obviously being the big move. He's not even he's one of the younger pieces in our receiving core, which is crazy to think about. He's only 25. He's younger than Velus Jones, which
Really?
is crazy.
Velus Jones
he's
was
younger
like
than
20.
Velus Jones.
He was like 37 when he got drafted. Velus Jones was old.
What? I did not know
Jermaine
that.
Edmonds is younger than Velus Jones as well, and Jermaine Edmonds got drafted in 2018.
Was Velus drafted at 24 and then turned 25 in the season?
He was drafted at 25.
Okay. It was something. I knew it was something insane. Yeah, no. Tremaine Edmonds is also insane. I forgot about the fact that he was drafted at like 19.
Yeah, he was drafted like 2 or 3 months before his 20th birthday. Which
That's
is
insanity.
Crazy. Yeah, he was drafted the same year as Roquan, and he's younger than Velus Jones.
What in the? I wonder, did he start college early or something? I have no idea. How is he that young? That's shocking.
I think it was some kind of starting college early. It was something. I didn't read about it, but I saw like some kind of article talking about it.
Hold on, I don't know exactly what it was. How long he was at? He was at VT. I knew that.
Well, you have to be there like college minimum 3 years, right?
We're gonna find out.
So. Yeah, I believe so.
You can be like a redshirt sophomore is the earliest you can commit to the NFL.
Right.
Yeah. So he spent 3 years at Virginia Tech. He started there in 2015. He was born in. So he started there in 2015. That would have been 8 years ago. I don't know how 16. That works. Technically speaking, yeah, he would have been 16 when he started college.
So he had to have been early because like I was young for my my grade and I graduated at 17.
Oh wow!
I started college at 18 because my birthday was over the summer. So he had to have started early. Like there's no other way it would make any sense.
That's crazy. Probably. Yeah, his birthday is May 2nd. He'll turn 24 or 25 right after the draft.
That's insane, man.
Fuck.
You want to know what's even more insane? The fact that I am 3 days older than Jamar Chase.
Damn.
Just 3 days. That's the crazy part.
Zion Williamson is only like 5 days older than I am.
Holy moly. That's insane, man.
Yeah, these people are like my age, being successful, making billions of dollars, and here I am, doing a whole lot of nothing. Makes me feel really good about myself.
But anyways, talking about like who they are as players. I love Edmonds. Perfect scheme fit for Chicago's defense. He's a big, rangy linebacker who got a lot better in coverage last year, is incredible in run defense, fits the defense way better than Roquan. Like Jarrett said, TJ Edwards is an awesome signing too. I love him because he's a Chicago kid. Grew up a Bears fan. He says he remembers tailgating during the Super Bowl when Hester ran back the kick, and he said he waited in the cold for 2 hours to beat Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs. Like, that's a guy who's gonna appreciate playing in Chicago, and I love that. And he also has ties to Jack Sanborn. His senior year at Wisconsin was Jack Sanborn's freshman year, which I think is really cool. So they're going to be back in the same linebacker core. And then obviously Big Bob Tunyon, awesome tight end too signing. Andrew Billings is one I'm incredibly excited for. I love a good nose tackle, and that's exactly what he is. We need something like that desperately because teams just ran all over us last year.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Foreman, obviously, like Jarrett said, he's not as good as Monty, but he was more productive than Monty last year. So hopefully with a beefed up offensive line ahead of him and a really good run scheme running behind Kari Blasingame, he's going to be a lot better. Uh, with him and Herbert as your duo, and I'm not fully convinced they're done at running back. I could see them drafting a guy still holding out hope that Tajay Spears ends up in a Bears uniform. That's kind of a pipe dream at this point, but I really want it. Just something about a sick Aaron Jones-like running back that wore 22 at Tulane feels right about being in Chicago. You know, it's that Matt Forte connection. Nate Davis was a great signing, obviously, and then what am I forgetting? Am I forgetting anybody? Travis Homer, cool signing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Jarrett kind of, put it best. I'm still holding out hope that we're going to make a few more signings. While he was talking, I pulled up some of the free agent tackles. Isaiah Wynn would be awesome. George Fant would be really cool to be able to go out and get. Amani Arawarie, who's a corner, would be awesome to go out and get. He'd pair very well with Jalen Johnson because Jalen's kind of your lockdown CB1. Arawarie's your
I love Jalen.
ball playing CB2, and then obviously you'd have Tyler Gordon as your 3, and then Kendall Vildor gets dropped down to the 4, which would be great. But I'm really excited to see how they're going to approach the draft because I feel like they took care of a lot of the less flashy needs in free agency, which I know disappointed a lot of people. But we went linebacker, running back, guard, nose tackle, all that kind of stuff, backup tight end. Those are all positions that you don't want to draft. You don't want to have to lock yourself into
Right.
drafting. So paying them in free agency when, the big money positions like edge and offensive tackle and wide receiver and all that aren't necessarily going to be available in free agency, it makes a ton of sense. Also, speaking of edge, Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. He has connections to Matt Eberflus. I want him in Chicago so bad. He'd be such a sick fit.
Yeah.
Him as your starting D end on one side and then drafting a guy to play opposite him would be so perfect.
Does he have connections to Eberflus?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it did.
they were together in Indy.
It was
I
that
thought
one
he
year.
Oh fuck, you're right.
no, because he went to Indy this year. He was
You're
traded with
right.
the Raiders for
Oh
Rocky
yeah.
Sin.
You're right. I thought he was there. I thought he was there for 2 years in Indy. You're
I still
absolutely
like
right.
the signing if it makes you feel any better.
No. Yeah, I mean
Ngakoue
we
is
need the
awesome.
edge help. And Ngakwe's a dog. You're right. He was only in Indy for a year. I thought he was there for 2 years.
Mm.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was just
It was
one year.
last offseason he was traded for Rocky Sin,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
who also would be a solid signing for the Bears.
Right.
Mhm.
Definitely would be. I'd prefer Arawarie personally, just because I think he's a better fit opposite Jalen. But either or, beggars can't be choosers. I would like another player that plays cornerback. Just
Mhm.
any of them.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to be picky.
I do have one question for you, and I've been kind of thinking about this. Should the Bears somehow be interested in potentially trading Eddie Jackson? Because he kind of revived his career and he's not getting any younger. And you're seeing the Bears, their secondary is getting this team is on a rebuild sort of, and they're doing it so well. Do you want Eddie Jackson to be a Bear next season, considering that he has revived his career, or do you think there's probably a trade market out there for a team probably needing to get a safety that could benefit from Eddie Jackson? I'm kind of curious for your guys' thoughts because I was
Me and
thinking about that.
me and David are definitely going to disagree here. I can already guarantee it.
Why don't you go ahead and go first to be a little more optimistic, and then I can come in and kill all your hopes and
I
dreams.
listen. I know it's going to come across biased, and like I'll admit to it. But like I've always loved Eddie Jackson. He's been one of my favorite Bears. He's just an absolute ball hawk. He's turned the ball, like, got a lot of turnovers for our defense. I can see where David hasn't even given his points yet, but I can see like where he's coming from. Like, it would make sense given like the age and timeline of our team, but at
Right.
the same time, you can only trade away like so many of your like fan favorite, veteran players and kind of get away with it. And Poles has kind of traded away everyone else. So I don't know. I think we should keep him. He's a good veteran leader for the team. He does need to improve his tackling, which I think he did a little bit better last year.
Right.
But I think we should keep him. David's probably going to show me up with some great logic or something. But I'm a big Eddie Jackson guy. Me and David kind of disagreed on that in the past. But I'm a big fan of his. I think he does a lot for this team, and I think we should hang on to him personally. But take it away.
I agree. I
Oh,
agree that we should
okay.
keep Eddie Jackson. I know I
Okay,
baited the
well,
shit out of you. No, we don't. The fact that we don't have an immediate replacement for Eddie Jackson is kind of the big thing for me. Like if we drafted somebody and Poles was incredibly confident in this kid, he fit Eberflus's defense perfectly, different story. But as of right now, Jarrett actually made the kind of my big point is you need veteran leaders in the locker room.
Mhm.
And at this point, with Khalil Mack gone, with Akeem Hicks gone, with Roquan Smith gone, it's kind of Eddie Jackson by himself as that big veteran leader that's been there for an extended period of time. And granted, there's been a lot of turnover, so it's not like there's a bunch of guys that are still attached to Eddie, but you do have the guys from last year. You have some of the younger guys. I'm sure he's been a great mentor for Brisker in the good ways. I hope he doesn't try to teach Brisker how to tackle because that would get bad, but Brisker seems to be a fine tackler.
Brisker's awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, I like Eddie. He was better, or yeah, I'll say it. I like Eddie now. I've grown on him, or he's grown on me a little bit after last year, improving his tackling, actually putting effort forth towards bringing down ball carriers instead of rolling over like he was fucking dead anytime anyone tried to make contact with him. So if he continues to improve, there's a place for him in the defense. He continues to be an outspoken leader like so many players talk about him being, then I don't have any problem with holding on to Eddie Jackson. Now,
Right.
he's getting older. I'm not sure how much longer he has on his deal. I don't think I'd give him another contract. I think once it comes time for him to leave, he should leave.
Mm-hmm.
But, as of right now, given what's on the roster, I would say keep him around. But I could be singing a different tune on draft night if we draft somebody like Jair Brown or the kid from Illinois, Sidney Brown, I think is his name. I know it's Sidney something. I don't know his last name, but I know Bears fans are enamored with him, and I gotta. It's definitely not Sidney Brown because I'm getting Brown from Chase. No, maybe I am. Hold on.
I think
I gotta
it is
look this
Brown.
up.
I want to say it's Brown, but
Chase Brown has a brother at Illinois. It might be the safety I'm thinking about. Sidney Brown. Okay, I was right. So yeah, Chase and Sidney Brown are brothers.
How
I
did
knew
I
that.
not get that connect? I didn't even like.
I
make
only
that
know it
connection.
because I was watching somebody give their top 10 running backs, and they were talking about Chase Brown. And they were like, his brother plays safety at Illinois, and he's also a super athlete, just like in passing. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then I tried to talk myself out of it, but I was right. Yeah.
Mm.
Crazy thing is, they could both be Bears next year. Wouldn't that be wild?
Just draft purely from Illinois, like from the college.
Oh god, we end up with Devon Witherspoon and Sidney Brown, Chase Brown, Dartavius Martin. I don't know if there's anyone else. I'm sure there's other players from Illinois. Oh, there's a tackle with a weird name. I got him in my phone. Hold on. I got this. I just watched him today. I can't remember his name because I watched so many offensive linemen today. Oh, yeah, I'm not pronouncing that. Halseski?
I'm not gonna give
He's
it
a
a try on
tackle.
that.
Alex, Palczewski.
Oh, it's Sky. I'm not gonna
I'm not
try.
gonna even attempt it now.
I don't know. I suck at Polish names.
I'm gonna
but
butcher the living hell out of it.
okay.
Just like how I butchered Albert O's name at one point.
Dude, I suck with names. I used to call Chris
I just
Olave
say
Chris
Albert.
Olave.
Oh
Like
man.
that was bad. I did that in multiple TikToks, and finally someone called me on it.
Oh man.
I suck at pronouncing names.
Yeah, I do too. It depends on if the name is like very, very complicated where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna butcher the living hell out of it.
I fuck up normal names, or not normal names, common names.
Oh man.
Like, you could tell me your name's Carl, and I'll fuck that up somehow if I'm not careful.
I mean, oh, what's his name? Charles Barkley called Kyle Kuzma Carl Kuzma at one point.
Well, Chuck's a different breed.
I love Charles Barkley. What if the Bears signed a Tremaine Edmonds' twin brother, Terrell Edmonds?
I thought you were about to say, what if the Bears signed Charles Barkley? Oh my god, it's late. My brain is not functioning at a normal level.
Man.
Is he in free agency? I thought he was still in Pittsburgh.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I want to say like he's gotten cut by the Steelers before, hasn't he? I don't know. I know he's the much less talented brother, so I don't know if I have any interest in him being our backup safety. We got Bojack, we got Brisker, we got the best safety in Bears history, DHC. I think we're pretty solid there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Terrell Edmonds is a free agent this year. I'm just now looking at Spot Rack.
I do know on Twitter that Terrell Edmonds made a post about something about like Tremaine signing, and everyone confused them and was like commenting under his tweet, like welcoming him to Chicago, even though it was his brother.
Oh,
it's
man.
Bears fans.
I mean, they're twins, so imagine the Edmonds brothers in Chicago. That would be something. But yeah, Chicago's killing it in free agency. I am a bit bummed out. You took Robert Tonyan from us, but I'm not gonna be upset about it because Robert Tonyan is a Chicago native. So I'm not gonna blame him for, going back home, as, a lot of Packers fans are calling him a traitor, which I'm like, okay, like I get it, but he's a Chicago native. Not gonna blame him for that. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna like Tonyan being your second option. And dude, people are underrating Cole Kmet on Twitter, and it's actually ridiculous. And I legitimately think Kmet's top 10 at his position. I'll put him at number 10 in my tight end rankings. Like, he's actually a good blocker, good receiving option. I mean, Kmet can do it, but people on Twitter, they're underrating the living hell out of him. It's actually insane. But other than that, I mean, Chicago's doing nice, and I legitimately think Chicago could potentially surprise some people, especially in the NFC with this being weak. There's a chance I can see the Bears making the playoffs. This is a team, I mean, Poles is taking them to the right direction, and obviously the trade with the number 1 overall pick, exactly what Chicago needed to do. I am curious to see what Poles does in free agency, but as of right now, I mean, Poles is looking like the general manager of the year so far. I gotta hand it to him. Good stuff, Chicago. I mean, liking what they're doing, but you guys got anything else you want to talk about the Bears and what they're doing, and what you want to see, addressed later on? Or
the big thing for me is I want Tyree Wilson, and I don't want Miles Murphy. That is all. Those are my only 2 requests for the draft. Number 1 is don't draft Miles Murphy. Number 2 is get Tyree Wilson. If we can't get Tyree Wilson, I understand. But if we get the other guy, Miles Murphy, God, see, you can tell I'm tired. My brain's not fucking working. If we get Miles Murphy, I will be billing Ryan Poles for my therapy.
Oh, man.
That would be the beginning of my Joker arc.
If you don't get Tyree Wilson, a guy like Lucas Van Ness, who I actually kind of like, I would like to see him in Chicago.
Yeah, Lucas Van Ness is my backup to Tyree Wilson, man.
He fits much better.
Lucas Van Ness kind of feels more like a Bear. Tyree Wilson's just my guy.
Yeah.
Dude, if we draft Lucas Van Ness, I'm buying that man's jersey at one draft night.
Yeah. Van Ness is good.
That'll be the second time I've done that.
Yeah, I've seen a few of Van Ness. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, but what if Jalen Carter falls to your pick?
I don't want Jalen Carter. I'm over him.
Oh yeah, because of the careless.
Not even that. I just want to draft an edge or a tackle in the first round and then get Adabare in the second round as our 3-tech. Even though Jalen Carter's better and I'm a moron. Yeah. But I'm fully aware I'm a moron for not wanting Jalen Carter, but oh well. I don't care. I have my once. There's a reason I'm not the GM.
Oh man. But yeah. I mean, really the Bears ideally need is a pass rush at this point. Kind of like the
We need
Falcons.
edge. We need three
Edge,
tech. We need
three tech.
corners. We need a right tackle. We got to figure out what we're doing at center, even though it's probably Cody Whitehair.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
We need two edge rushers, really.
right. Pretty much. I mean, like I said, Lucas Van Ness would be awesome for the Bears.
Love
And
Lucas Van Ness, man.
and
Fucking Hercules on the Bears D line. You'd have Hercules on one side and Thor on the other if
right.
Travis Gibson kept starting.
Mm-hmm. And then I mean, you could get some guys in free agency like a Yannick Ngakwe, who I think
Jadeveon Clowney's out there still. He'd be cool.
Clowney would not be a bad option. He wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad. But
for sure.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this pretty much concludes, I mean, this episode. I mean, there's really nothing much that's gone on. I mean, well, except I gotta do mention about the Cowboys because Jerry Jones decided to wake up. And if you guys saw my Cowboys meme on Twitter, I was like, oh, the biggest move in free agency. The Dallas Cowboys are signing nobody. And that went viral. It got popular on Twitter. And then now Jerry decides to make some moves, giving a fifth for Stephon Gilmore, which Anthony Brown being your number 2 corner is a straight up liability. Major upgrade. Gilmore still has that lockdown ability. Kind of slightly declined, but he's still good enough. Good stuff for addressing that. And then today they traded for Brandon Cooks, getting a 5th this year and then a 6th round pick next year. So heck of a steal. I am concerned about the Cowboys offensively. I mentioned it today on the TikTok I made. It's just, how is Mike McCarthy going to do this offense? Because he is calling the plays. They don't have Kellen Moore, and Dallas isn't, their new offensive coordinator. He's not even going to call the plays, and I'm not even sure if people are high on him anyways. I don't know much. I don't know anything too much about him. And then Adam Thielen signing a 3-year deal with the Panthers. I still imagine Carolina's going to go wide receiver in the draft and have Thielen be their number 2, but I guess Thielen being their mentor makes sense. But other than that, I mean, this is pretty much it. And there's nothing much to talk about. I mean, we touched on pretty much all the big name free agents that are out there. And then we most importantly got to talk about the Chicago Bears because they're the ones killing it in free agency. So, anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Well, in that case, I guess this is it. Once again, Jarrett, David, appreciate you boys coming on to the show, talking free agency and whatnot. Definitely for sure, got to have you back on the show. You guys are awesome. And with that being said, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.